Open the door. Open the door. Open the door.
Be cool, be chill. Just the internet.
Hey, screw all them haters. I don't think we have any yet. We could always go on Reddit, but yeah.
Don't know if we're ready for that yet.
Jim Carrey said, "Bumblebee tuna, bumblebee tuna."
Go. We're live now, baby.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know. We're all in trouble.
Unfiltered, episode 3.
Episode
August
3.
17th.
Yep. August 17th, 2025. Welcome to Unfiltered with me, Tyler Anderson, also known as Tyler Liger. I'm here with Sweeze right above me, and I have Ed right across the way, and then right kitty corner, our first guest, historic first guest, is the West Texas wrestling wizard himself, Rick Elsey. I know I had to come up with a little nickname for you, Rick, but hope you don't mind. But glad to have
That's
you
okay.
on.
I'll accept that.
Very excited. I was expecting a
Little drum roll. Yeah, man.
Rick Elsey.
Yeah.
Yeet, yeet, yeet. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, it
I'm
could
glad
be
we all got
the
the
like the
memo.
Wayne's World thing. It's like, we're not worthy.
Oh.
We're not worthy.
Show your age.
Yeah.
You got to keep it young for the kids. It's the Uso.
Oh yeah.
He's taking it over.
But,
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. That's trademark now.
yeah, it is
Oh.
trademark. You have to be careful.
Oh no! Nope. WWE. Don't watch the first episode. The first episode I was on. I did that a lot.
Yeah, I get a
I gassed
copyright
myself
strike.
out.
But no, Rick. Rick, thank you for joining us here on this wonderful, hot and sunny Sunday afternoon. I mean, I'm just gonna let you have the floor. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, it's much more than just long walks on the beach and liking pro wrestling, man. So, yeah, just for the uninitiated, introduce yourself.
Well, as you said, my name is Rick Elsey, and I'm in Amarillo, Texas. That's my home. That's where I was born. And when you are part of the Amarillo, Texas area, you kind of can't help but be a wrestling fan. Amarillo was one of the meccas of wrestling in the day. The Funk family territory was extremely influential in wrestling world. Anybody who was anybody came through here, and it meant a big deal to the industry in general. I grew up here and was fortunate enough to see my first wrestling event on December 17th, 1977. And I got to see it in the old sports arena at the fairgrounds that no longer exists. And my first main event that I ever sat for was Andre the Giant versus the original Sheik. And it scared the living hell out of me as a 6-year-old child. to see this 7-foot monster with a giant afro, matted with blood, throwing chairs at this man who was stabbing people with pencils and throwing fire. And I was hooked on that day, and I've never looked back. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in a time period that I got to see the beginning of the WWF national expansion. I've been a fan through the death of the territories. I've been a fan into the advent of ultra-violent wrestling. I've been a fan through the Monday Night Wars. I've been a fan through the post-Monday Night Wars, where Vince McMahon essentially had a stranglehold on the industry for 20 years. And I am a fan today as the business is evolving into what it has become. And so I have pretty much seen everything. And nothing surprises me anymore. Nothing shocks me anymore. It's wonderful to be able to be a fan. But as you know, I've been a promoter and a booker for the last 17 years in the West Texas area. And currently I am the booker promoter for Squared Circle Pro out of Lubbock, Texas. We are in our 14th year in the business. And I'm very fortunate to be able to, in some form or fashion, live my dream of being involved in the wrestling business. But it doesn't come without its pitfalls, and it's a hard business to be a part of. And that's why myself, as somebody who loves what I do very much, I also get pretty bent out of shape when people in my industry or around my industry do things that I feel harms my industry. Sure. And I try very hard not to be the old man yelling at clouds. But I do find myself at times yelling at clouds because I feel like people don't understand the consequences of, hey, this is cool today, but what's this going to look like in 10 years? And that nobody has the forethought to think long term. Everybody just wants to think about what's cool right now. Yeah. And that has done irreparable damage to our business. Things are harder today in the world of professional wrestling because of what at the time was the most profitable era of the business, which was the Monday Night Wars. Because the Monday Night Wars threw the tried and true formula of promoting and booking wrestling out the window so that they could compete every Monday night, raise the bar every Monday night, and try to get the biggest ratings every Monday night by breaking every rule that the business ever had. And now, today, we're still trying to repair that damage as the industry evolves. And a lot of people don't understand actually how detrimental that was. So for me, when I'm thinking about my shows and the things that I do, I try to bring an old school flavor because I grew up on world-class championship wrestling from Florida, continental wrestling out of Memphis, Mid-South, UWF, Jim Crockett Promotions. The Southern wrestling storytelling was what brought me in. And so I try to keep those fundamentals and keep that mindset when I put my wrestling on, because I feel like that's what brought most of us to the dance. I doubt very seriously that many wrestling fans got into wrestling because they saw a really cool 15-minute match full of a ton of chaining and high spots where nobody sold anything. So for me, I feel like they got in on the soap opera, they got in on the characters, they watched a promo one time flipping through the channels where somebody like a Roddy Piper or a Hulk Hogan was screaming and yelling at the camera, and they thought, well, what is this? You know, and then they discovered the wrestling on the side. And wrestling in the ring either speaks to you in one way or it speaks to you in another way. But the one thing that speaks to all of us that are fans is the storytelling.
Yeah.
And the storytelling is not always there when you're just focusing on, hey, how many cool moves can we do? So that's how I kind of approach what I do. And of course, that also trickles into how I view the industry. There's a lot of product that I will watch and shake my head at because I don't understand what they're trying to do. I don't understand how this is supposed to benefit anybody going forward. But at the same time, I appreciate, that even though it may not be for me, I may not be the target audience. I appreciate that there are people out there that like it, and more power to them. But my focus will always be, how can I make sure that this is just as strong next year as it is now, or how can I potentially make it stronger?
Right.
Agreed.
And so that's kind of my philosophy. That's just kind of how I look at it. I'm 53 years old and been a fan since 6. Been there, done that, seen it. So I could definitely get where I come off as, a gatekeeper. And if that's what you want to call me, then that's fine. I'll be that. But it comes from a place of love for what I do. And I do feel like there is a level of a level within people my age and my experience and what I'm doing. I do think that there is a little bit of a righteous tone in us that allows us to say, you're not doing this right, and we don't think you should be a part of this. And so, that's just to protect what we love. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Whatever you want to, if you want to ask me other questions, that's fine. I don't really know what else to say without sounding like a broken record.
Sure. So, I'll share the story of how I met Rick. So, I started off in Amarillo with going to the WrestlePlex, and the WrestlePlex. Tanner and I know about the WrestlePlex. Yeah, I started going to that because they used to advertise during Monday Night Raw or any one of your wrestling shows. So it's okay, all right, that's wrestling. I can go every weekend or whatever. I started going to shows and I started meeting the Hillbillies, who are a group of fans who they weren't the prettiest bells of the ball, but they were certainly the loudest section. And and there's stories I got of the Hillbillies, but there was a little bit of a I want to try to say it as nice as I can. There was a little bit of a disagreement between the Hillbillies, and there was a disconnect. There we go. There was a disconnect between the Hillbillies and Cody Jones, who was here in Amarillo at the time. And I taunted Cody something terrible, and Cody and I have since smoothed things over. We get along now, but I remember he went to the back and then we were chanting you suck, and then then something involving something phallus, and he comes out with a mic and he's like, fuck you, and he comes down and he's shouting at the fans, and I think he threw something at old Dennis Hart, who is the leader of the Hillbilly clan. And Dennis goes they have the little rope deals around the ring. They don't have really a structure. It was just a rope deal to separate the wrestlers from the fans or whatever. And Dennis just plows right through it, because Dennis wasn't going to take any more shit. And then I remember after that was all done, Hans, who kind of resembles Sloth from the Goonies, and Rick and Tanner, we know I almost called him Sloth. We know Hans all too well. And Hans is well, we could go over to the warehouse and we can go watch Rick. Rick has really good shows. So we started going to the warehouse, and we've been there until the warehouse closed. And I remember I think I was like grocery shopping with Mom, and I run into Rick over at the Canyon Walmart, and I was like, oh, hey, there's Rick, and come up, and I was like, hey, man, you do a great job. I really enjoy your work, and we've been friends ever since. And then for the uninitiated, that I don't know if I brought this up in the last two podcasts. It's like, now I do play-by-play for Squared Circle Pro, which is I never thought I'd do, play-by-play. I haven't done that since like 2009 when we were doing Dimmet shows. So it's the rest is history. And when I came back, I reconnected with Rick, and I was like, he's got to be on Unfiltered. He's got to be on the podcast. He's, because I mean, all of us are wrestling fans to some degree, and it's really, to me, it's really fun because I was like, I love talking about wrestling, and a lot of like sports ball people, like a lot of people in sports media love wrestling. There's very few and far in between people that don't really like it a whole lot, or at least a lot of them will tolerate it. Others are huge fans. And then there are some people that are just like, yeah, that's not for me. Or I'm like, come on, you don't know the magic of it. And so you have to educate them a little bit and be like, hey, you think of it like this, and you think of it like a performance, but it's a performance with a story to it. And it's the story that hooks you in. It's the story, and it's the characters and how they conflict one another. That's how it draws you in, and that's the majesty of it. And also the pageantry. The pageantry is also a little bit of a bonus, but you don't get that at the independent level. Like the independent level is it is as close to the earth as you can get. And I mean, I don't know if that's a good way of putting it. And Rick, feel free to interject. But yeah, like
it's bells and whistles. I mean, it's just when we watch wrestling on television, I've always been of the belief that if you have to have giant screens and everything's LED and there's pyro all over the place, what are you distracting me from that's not good? Because if your product is great, you don't really need all of those bells and whistles. And it's fine to have that for presentation. But if that's the main reason that you're there, why is the product not good? And so on the independent level, we can have screen, we can have entrance, you can have fog, you can do some stuff. But most of the venues that you rent or you create a deal with on the indie scene are not going to allow pyro in those buildings. And there's not enough room to erect giant, LED screens and big ass stages. You don't get all of that. So independent wrestling is much more tangible. It's in your face. You can reach out and touch it. My promotion purposefully does not have guardrails. We specifically, the front row, you are 3 feet from the ring. And when people get out of the ring to brawl, it's right in front of your face. And that's one of our selling points, is our fans feel like they're part of the show because it's right there. Mm-hmm. And if a wrestler's coming at you and they say move, get up and move.
You better
because they're probably coming. They're probably going to be in your lap.
Yeah,
run through.
So
you.
I mean, yeah. But that's one of the selling points is that it's so in your face and so easy to grasp. Indie wrestling is a whole other level from what you see on television. That's why when I talk to people about wrestling, and if they tell me, oh well, I used to watch, or I haven't watched in a while, or it's not really for me, I don't like the way it looks now, I always ask them, have you ever been to an independent show in your area? And if the answer is no, then I tell them, please go. Doesn't have to be my show, be somebody else's show. Please go, because I do believe that if you go, it will change your mindset, because you'll see it in a different light. And I know several fans who will go to indie shows every weekend. That's their weekend activity. They will seek out an indie show and they will go. And I know that a lot of those people that do that do not watch wrestling on television. They just don't. Because to them, it's not the same thing.
Right. For me, it was always a catharsis. Like, it was I'd have a shitty week at work or something. And then I'd go to the warehouse, or I would go, oh gosh, maybe it was the weekend where a Squirt Circle Pro show was going on in Lubbock. Make the trip down, and it's catharsis. It's a good way to let out stress. That's why, like, I think of it as, it's a two-way street. Like, it's good for, without wrestling, there'd be no fans, and without fans, there'd be no wrestling. But speaking from a fan's perspective for so long, it's catharsis. I really, it's stress relief. Like, hey, instead of lashing out on my boss, why don't I lash out at the heel? As long as I don't swing fists at him, as long as I could be like, hey, you suck, buddy, hey, like, it just, make fun of him. And then, dude, the cool thing is they clap back, and it's glorious when they clap back, because, I mean, some people get heated over it, but I laugh over it. There's some really good heels in the independent scene that just make me roll, and Rick probably knows who I'm talking about. And Rick is really good at doing that as well. But no, it's for me, it's like a form of stress relief, and until, like, I got into the circle and I really dipped my toes into the pool, where I'm just like, okay, all right. And then it's to the point where I was like, man, nothing bothers me anymore. It doesn't. And I just sit there and I just, like, if I go to a show, I just watch quietly. And I know people don't like that, but I was like, but I don't know. I mean, I have friends in it. I have friends that are involved with it. And I was like, I enjoy it. It's just, I've seen just about everything from, like, light tubes to, the purest of pure wrestling, where, there's no rope breaks, or there's only like 3 rope breaks per match or something like that. And, I just sit quietly. And then, if it's a good match, make fun of me if you will. I almost behave like a Japanese wrestling fan these days, but it still doesn't stop me from enjoying the show. It really, yeah, I know, the golf clap.
Hey, you paid your money to show up, so that's all they need. And
I love to tell people that for $10, you're getting like 3 hours worth of really just authentic professional wrestling, like professional wrestling at its core. I mean, it's warts and all. Everybody's all trying to get better. And the cool thing is, and Rick and I discussed this the other day, was everybody's had their start in the independents. I mean, everybody who's anybody. There's an industry plant here and there. There's people that have, started off like, the Logan Paul thing, where he started off as like this YouTuber, and then now he's like in the world of professional wrestling, which I'm sure Rick will think it's ridiculous.
Having 5-star matches.
5-star Logan Paul.
I have no problem with Logan Paul. I don't care what kind of human being he is. I don't care where he came from. What I care about is that I grew up in a time frame where, when celebrities came in, they came in to do the bare minimum and get a paycheck and get out. And now we live in an era where celebrities like Bad Bunny and Logan Paul are getting into the rings, Jelly Roll now, and they're taking it seriously. They're working at it. They're putting on good performances, and you don't get the idea that they are there for this quick paycheck. They are there to enjoy this and treat it with respect. So, he can sell all of his scam energy drinks all he wants to. I don't care. I just want him to get in there and have the best match possible. And thus far, what I've seen from Logan Paul, if they end up putting a belt on him, far as I'm concerned, he's earned it.
Absolutely.
Because he's great. He's
a natural heel. People hate him.
He was a great U.S. champion. You know,
I hope some wrestling fans are prepared, and I don't want them to get in their feelings and get outraged. But I'd put a large sum of money on it that Logan Paul is going to be John Cena's last match, and that Cena's going to put him over.
Oh.
I didn't even want to think about that, Rick. Why did you say it? Come on.
because it makes all the sense in the world, and it's obvious.
I know, but saying it out loud's a different thing.
You know who else really translated well into the ring, and that was Stephen Amell. Like when he did the whole,
he did.
Yeah, he looked really good. He moves really well, and I mean, he can actually do sometimes all you gotta do is just know a few basic moves. You don't have to know chain. You don't have to know how to give people a tombstone pile driver, or a Canadian destroyer. You don't have to know all those things.
Not everyone has to live at the performance center for 2 months like Jelly Roll did, but
Yeah.
it worked out well.
The easiest, being a celebrity coming into the sport, especially if you are a popular celebrity like Stephen Amell, was when he was there. What he understood, and what a lot of people I think don't understand, is that those people that are now paying to watch you wrestle a match, they already like you. So they really only want to see one or two things. They want to see you beat somebody up for a few minutes. They want to be able to cheer you for that. They'd like for you to win, but they don't really need you to, because they'd be just as happy to applaud you when you leave after you lost as they cheered when you won. But they really want to see you leave that ringside seat and into that ring, because they want to live vicariously through you for a few moments.
Right.
And that means you don't have to do all the crazy stuff. You just have to do the things that make sense. Hop that apron, hop the railing, get in the ring, throw a few punches, then play baby in peril for the next 10 minutes till you can get a big Hulk up spot, make a couple of big bumps, and then get your ass beat and lose. And then at the end of the day, the baby face will come out and raise your hand, and everybody will pop, and you can go home with a check. And that's how it freaking works.
That is how it works.
Wrestling 101.
Yeah, that is wrestling 101, man.
And guess what? Nobody did any chain. Nobody did a tope suicida. There was no stupid plancha over the top rope onto 9 people waiting. There were not 17 tables and a giant chair spot. There was none of that shit. None of it. None of that shit. Because it doesn't need it. It doesn't need it.
Right.
And that's the problem with a lot of modern wrestling today. They don't understand that. Here's the philosophy, and this is what people have to get. Putting together a wrestling match or an angle or a program, it all comes back to simple arithmetic. 1 + 1 must always equal 2. If you're trying to make it equal 5, you're a dipshit who doesn't know what he's doing. Now, if you want to do multiplication and you want to say, okay, well, I like to have 2 × 2 = 4. That's wonderful. But the second you start throwing, you leave basic arithmetic and you start getting into algebra and you start throwing variables and letters and X's and parentheses and all that, all you're doing is making the outcome harder than it had to be to get from 1 + 1 = 2. And the more you add, the longer the match gets, the more complicated it gets. And there's 3 things that then happen. You run the bigger risk of losing the script, losing the narrative. You run the bigger risk of losing their attention, because we live in a world now where people have the attention of a gnat. And number 3, you've given us more time to potentially get hurt. So why are we adding when we mostly should be subtracting?
Right.
Just keep it simple.
And the reason we're adding is because we had a period of time 25 years ago where all we did was grab shit and throw it all over the place. And we've never recovered from it.
Yeah.
And like the average fan is not solving these mathematic equations. They're just
No,
watching what's happening.
Because the average fan is a doofus
Well, yeah.
who doesn't think. And that's okay. They paid their money to be an idiot. Go ahead, be an idiot. You paid your money to be an idiot. But at the end of the day, what you have to understand is that there's a formula. And when you look at something and go, well, that didn't really excite me. Okay, then move on. Go to something else because they're building to something. And you might not be excited right now, but I guarantee you 2 or 3 more shows, you're going to find something you're going to go, oh, that's what it was. I loved that. Look, perfect example. Go back to WrestleMania 39. If I had a dime for every wrestling fan who spent 2 weeks after WrestleMania 39 talking about the death knell of Cody Rhodes not being Roman Reigns for the title, and how they screwed that up and how awful it was, and oh my God, Triple H is an idiot, blah, 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 blah. Then the very next year, all those same people were like, oh my God, 40 was so amazing. Oh my God, that match was so awesome. It wouldn't have been that awesome if they'd have shot their wad at WrestleMania 39, you idiot.
Yeah, that's probably the best example I can think of.
So maybe let them cook.
Let them cook, man. Let them cook. Heck yeah. So, all right. So,
I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
In a Squared Circle Pro, when you have like championship matches and these featured events, do they go for the same time mark that, like, say, WWE would go, where you got 45-minute to a 2-hour match?
It really depends on what story we're telling. It depends on what the card looks like, and it depends on where we're going with the program. Most times when I put a show together, I tend to try and give the title matches the most time. Right. But the only reason I do that is not because I expect them to go 20, 25 minutes, because most times I'll tell those guys, you guys have 25 minutes, and one of them will look at me and go, I'm not going 12. So, hey, but I'm just letting you know you've got this time pad, because I feel like that is what we've been investing in, that program, that story. They need time to do what they need to do. Whether they use it or not is their business.
Right.
But I am a big fan of whatever we have to do has to make sense for right now. And it doesn't necessarily have to be encapsulated in a plan that we can't play with.
Right.
But I try to keep matches no longer than 30 minutes unless it's like a Royal Rumble type match that's constantly moving.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you have 2 people or 4 people in there for longer than 20 to 25 minutes, if you get up into the 30-minute range, unless they're just going balls to the wall and they're not selling anything, most times it's going to start to lull the crowd because people don't have the attention span to carry it.
Right.
So we got to keep things, ideally, I would say 15 to 20 minutes is the most you should get. And the reason I say that is because I have guys come to me all the time and they talk about, I see that you only have us for 7 minutes tonight, or you only have us for 10 minutes. Is it possible that we could get 20? And I'm like, no. And I'll tell you why. Because I see you guys standing back here planning this giant match that you're going to have, planning out all these moves and all these spectacular twists and turns. And then you go out there and 2 moves in, you forget everything you just talked about and you get lost.
Right.
So if you're as good as you say you are, if you're as good as you say you are, or as good as you think you are, you should be able to tell the story we need to tell in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, I don't know how you're ever going to get on TV, because the average TV match is 7 to 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So So the thing is that if it's a big story, it's a big angle. We've been doing it a long time. We got a big payoff coming. Yes, I can give you more time, but very seldom, unless it's a rumble or unless it's a gauntlet match where one guy's going to fight like 5 people in succession. Very seldom are we going to go longer than 30 minutes.
Gotcha.
So with that being said, I know you said 1 + 1, all it should equals 2, and 2 × 2 should equals 4. Keep it simple. Is it as simple as like a heel versus a baby face, and then the story, and then outside of that with your promotion, when you're giving these time slots and what's allowed and what you're building to, how do those interactions with those people who give you pushback, how do you approach that mindset of, okay, this is what we're going for? Does the wrestler need to be told that, hey, you're doing too much? Do you have to take them aside and just talk them down and be like, this is how it's going to be because this is the vision, this is what I'm going for? Like,
well, and that's a great question. I'm going to give you a long and complex answer, but I will answer it. When I approach the story or the matches, I tend to plan out my entire year. Like right now, we are in August of 2025. There's a September show coming up that I've already got ready. There's a November show that's going to end the year that I'm pretty close to being done with. But I've already started the rough outlines for all 6 of the 2026 matches, or the 2026 cards. There's going to be 6 of them next year. And when I do that, I start with the furthest show out and I book backwards. I tell myself, here's what I know I want the story to look like in September of next year. So I need to make sure that every point previous has built to that moment. And then once I am happy with how things look, I start contacting the people involved and I clue them into what the vision is. Here's what we're talking about. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to get your 2 cents on this. What do you think about this? And I take every one of their feelings into account. Did they like their opponents? Do they like the story? Do they have any other ideas? I encourage ideas. I just tell the guys, if you're going to throw me ideas, I need you to give me an idea that you've really thought through, that has a long-term goal, because if all you're going to do is tell me what you think would be cool on this one show, we're not doing it because you can't tell me where it's going, so I'm not investing my time in it. Right. So I need you to think about things. And so then once we have these conversations and everybody's good, we have a production meeting day of show. And that production meeting is usually about an hour long. And I pass out formats that have everything written on it, and we sit around and we walk through the show like a table read at a sitcom. And we walk through it piece by piece. Here's the times. Here's the refs. These are the spots. This is a couple of things I'd like to see. Here's the reason this finish is happening, because we're going here on the next show. And when we're done and the production's there, everyone's taking notes, everyone knows what's happening. And before we leave, I get 100% total buy-in. And I say, is there any concerns, questions, issues? Right now, I want to hear them. If you got something, give it to me. Because if we leave here, this is what's happening.
Right.
Nothing is changing. If we leave, this is what's happening, because everyone that it affects has heard it and has it. So don't come to me at the curtain before you go out and say, hey, we want to change the ending of this match. Fuck off. That's not happening.
So I would assume
you had a chance to do it here.
Yeah.
You had a chance to do it here. So
speak now or forever
because
hold
I'm
your
not
peace.
There are independent promotions out there who slap a bunch of people on a flyer, have no idea what they're doing, tack a piece of notebook paper to a wall with a bunch of names written on it, scribble it out 9 or 10 times before the show that day, and then usually are booking the show as it's coming through the curtain. Yeah. That makes me want to kill myself.
It's a mess,
because
and you end up with a lot of people trying to just get their shit in.
I cannot deal with that if you have no plan, I want no part of it. No part of it. So to get back to Tanner's question, I bring them in, we talk about everything. And I have several wrestlers that work for me that know I think they do too much. And I tell them all the time, I think you do too much. I know that if you know for a fact that I'm going to use you 6 times next year. And you know for a fact that I've told you that most of you calculate all the time you're going to be in the ring next year, probably going to come out to about 50 minutes of total ring time out of 6 shows. I know for a fact that you can do about 60 or 70 moves. So in that first match of the year that I'm going to give you 12 minutes, maybe don't do all 60 of your stupid moves in one match, because why then does anybody want to care to watch the next 5? Maybe do 4 or 5 of those matches and spend the rest of the time working the crowd so that way they want to come back and see the next 5 or 6 moves. But
Absolutely.
You would think that I kicked their dog and shot their mother when I tell them stuff like that, because all they want to do is get in here and play video game and just bounce all over the place. That is not wrestling, fucker. That's not what it is.
Rick's really laying down the law, like, come at the king, you best not miss.
I mean, come on. I mean, this is not difficult. You're making this hard. It's not hard.
I probably know the answer, but do you think at WrestleMania 39, when WWE had Roman Reigns over Cody, were they building to the Undertaker coming out and John Cena coming out and the Usos fighting to end the whole bloodline and Cody finish his story? Or are they just changing it, like,
no,
as they go?
No. I believe that when they brought, and I don't have any proof of this, I'm going from my gut on what I saw and where I know they went. I believe that at first they had, when they had Cody win the Rumble, that they had every intention of putting Cody over at 39. And I believe in the coming weeks before the show, somebody had an epiphany and said, hey, if we don't give it to him here and then spend the rest of the year putting roadblocks in front of him like Brock Lesnar and like Seth Rollins,
The Rock.
I think that if we deny him here and then build him even more, by the time we get to 40, they are going to be itching to see him win, and the pop's going to be even bigger than it would have been at 39. Mm-hmm. And I think the unfortunate thing that happened was he tore his pec. And let me tell you something. All the fucking respect in the world to Cody Rhodes for working that Hell in the Cell with a torn pec.
Yeah,
probably the craziest
I
visual in the last
can't
20 years.
imagine how much pain he was in.
Yeah.
But I believe that once they got to him coming back at the Rumble and winning it again, there was that moment where I think they had the plan, and then they had the thing with The Rock happen, and I think TKO wanted to pivot to The Rock Roman, and they came up with the idea that we're not going to do Cody Roman at Mania. We're going to go ahead and do Rock Roman, and I think that the fan reaction sparked the Rock and several others to go, okay, I think we've made a mistake. I think we need to pivot out of this. And I think they got to the right conclusion. And I know that there was a spot where Rock was beating up Cody on Raw outside, and one of the production vans in plain view had John Cena's face and Stone Cold Steve Austin's face on it. And you can't convince me that in that moment, the plan wasn't Cena and Austin are going to come in at Mania and they're going to stop The Rock from fucking Cody out of this. And then Austin actually gave a little bit of credence to that by saying that they had talked to him, but they couldn't come to an agreement because time wasn't working right and there was some money issues, and that's where Undertaker stepped in. But I do believe that once they pivoted, most of what happened at 40 was on the table by that time. but I don't believe that 40 as it happened was in their minds when they did 39. No, I don't. And I believe that's because Triple H is the kind of booker that is 100% okay with pivoting if it makes sense.
Yeah. Got to have a little bit of that, little bit of fluidity to things, right?
You have to have wiggle room. Look, you can apply the fundamentals all day long. But if you can't survey the situation and be okay, I know where we're going, but it's okay to take this detour because I think it'll build. You absolutely have to be able to move chess pieces around. And not only because of the ideas, you have to take into account injuries. You have to take into account acts of God. There's all kinds of things that can happen to throw a wrench in plans, and you got to be able to pivot.
Yeah.
And I'm somebody that I take great pride, and you can talk to several wrestlers who will tell you they believe that I am the king of the pivot, because I have had stuff happen to me day of show where we have had plans in place for months, and I've had to change half of the show on day of, and I just happen to have the right pieces in place to pivot out of this, but I'm not doing something that doesn't allow me to pivot back.
Right.
And that's because I take such great care to build these stories over time and have a far-reaching plan. If I just went into the show with no plan and we're just going to do something that I only advertised for a week and then something happens and I got to pivot out of it, more than likely that's going to be a shitty show.
Mm-hmm. Spot
But
shows.
that's why you can't go into things blind, and you can't just be like, oh yeah, sure, whatever, that's cool. As long as I get to get my 450 in, I'm cool.
So when you're doing these shows, like, like when things change and you have to pivot, is it more of you have a backup plan, or do you have other? And I know you don't want to go too far to where it's just like you can't.
I don't care. It's fine.
It. So
no,
when you're looking at the show as the experience, are you looking at each show as its own story in itself? Because there's only 6 next year. Or are you building a story at the beginning of a show? It either carry on or go on, or are you trying to just give a one-off experience each? Does that make sense?
No, yeah, it does. I hate what I refer to as one shots. I hate that.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be in the same venue 6 times in 1 year in front of majorly the same audience, I'm going to carry a narrative for most of the show that's going to pay off in the end. And I'm going to try to stick to that as close as possible. If I get the opportunity to book a show in BFE that somebody's going to pay me to book as a sold show, and I don't know if I'm ever coming back, I'm going to do that as a one shot, which means I'm going to take less people with me, and I'm going to craft a narrative in the first 20 minutes of the show that's going to pay off 2 hours later. And that's it, because those people are essentially coming to watch a graphic novel in front of them, and I need to give them a beginning, a middle, and an end, because I don't know if I'm coming back. But if I'm in the same venue 6 shows for a year, I'd be an idiot to give them a beginning, a middle, and an end at show 1.
Yeah.
Wrestling 101.
Yep.
I think I heard in our discussion before we went live, you were talking about always trying to plan ahead. And you even said that during the beginning about trying to plan ahead and make sure you're always looking to carry the show through all those shows, to not do that, to not just sit there and go, well, that's it, we're done.
Yeah. I have it's right here. This is my book.
Somebody's got to get their hands on that book.
Rick will guard it with his life, man.
My 2026 at SCP is right here. And we are, like I said, we got 2 more shows to get through, but I've already started having conversations about next year because I need to make sure I get people booked, that I have dates set, and that I have pieces in place. And I just don't know any other way to do it. I am not comfortable. I am not just in everyday life. I am not a seat of my pants guy. I am not skin of my teeth. But whatever happens today, no. I wake up in the morning with a plan, and I go to bed at night with a plan. And if you're somebody who does live by the seat of your pants and everything's cool with you, and if you're a Kramer who just falls into everything, and that's fine. If you're that guy, more power to you. I can't live like that. So I need a plan.
Right.
And
It's
that's
a very
just me.
like old school mentality, old school booking. It's kind of like why I like older wrestling before I was even born. And you've been watching wrestling for 40 plus years. So, I mean, is that you carrying on the things that you loved from what stood out to you? Is this you leading it on? Okay. That's what I was kind of thinking.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. Everything I ever watched that was cool, that resonated with me, I try to take inspiration from that stuff and craft something new out of it, so that, because I'll tell you, for me, the biggest validation that I can ever receive as a booker is when I stand behind that curtain and I listen, and I know what's coming, and I know what I hope their reaction is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happens, and the reaction is exactly what I thought it was, but even bigger. That's validation for me, because I know that I had them, and I gave them an experience that I would want to have. And that means more to me than any amount of money or notoriety or anything like that. If I can stand behind that curtain and wait for the pop I feel should be coming, and that pop happens exactly the way that I planned it, that's all I need.
Awesome.
Heck yeah. So go ahead, Ed.
I was just going to ask you if through all this, it seems like you have a bunch of good expectations, and they turn out that way. Have you ever had to face failure and things that let you down?
Oh yes. There are a lot of people, and I'm sure Tyler's one of them, and Tanner may even be one of them as well. There are a lot of people who look at the 4 years of WWA in Amarillo with very rose-colored glasses, and they have fond memories and fuzzy memories of things that they loved and they saw, and this was so cool. And that's fine. I don't want to take any of that away from anybody. There's a lot of wrestlers that were part of it that I still use today, that I still work with today, and they love to sit back and talk about old warehouse stories, and that's fine. That's great. I love that you got that experience. When I think of WWA, all I think of is everything I did there taught me what not to do now.
Gotcha.
And that's because more times than not, I'm not saying that there wasn't good stuff. I'm saying that the things that went awry stand out to me more than the things that didn't.
Right.
And so when somebody says to me, hey, I've got an idea, if the warehouse flag goes up in the back of my head, my immediate answer is, fuck you. We're not doing that.
We ain't down by the tracks no more.
No.
And I'll give you one of those. I'll give you a story. And I'm not gonna name specific names. I'm gonna try to protect.
It's unfiltered. It's unfiltered.
Well,
that's not his point.
Yeah, I mean, I get where Rick's coming from.
Here's the look. Recently, with my new heel character at SCP, I have earned a specific wrestling badge that I never thought that I would earn in 17 years. I got my first death threat a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
And
so
I'm going to try, when I tell this story, I just want to be a little ambiguous. So
Sure.
I'll try not to be too filtered.
Hey, Death Threat
we-
people, don't watch this episode.
We did.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
We did
We
it-
don't need to.
We had an angle. With two people of color,
Yeah.
and we used a very militant, stereotypical gimmick that stoked a lot of racial tension with our fans. And that was by design. We were trying to stoke the fire. And we came up with an angle that was pretty raw and certainly had the potential to go awry. I did not anticipate that it would go as awry as it did, but it definitely taught me not to play with certain aspects of society. And what happened was we had these two characters. They pulled a white security guard from the crowd, and I will take full responsibility. I wrote this. This was my idea.
Guilty.
The idea was they were going to force this security guard to read a list of slurs with the threat of potentially beating him up, which would bring other baby faces, and then we would build to a match. That they were using the race card to stoke fire.
Right.
So, okay, there we are. So we're doing it, and we're saying terrible words. And we finally get to the big one, and I think everybody knows what that one is.
Mhm.
And when they force that word out of the guy's mouth who is saying he doesn't want to say it. And by the way, everybody talked about this before. Everybody was in on it. This was a storyline. So we get to the point to where they say the word, and our wonderful crowd, who had been there for years and are like family, and we know these people, they're here every week. Our wonderful crowd starts to chant white power.
Not ideal. Not ideal.
And in that moment, I discovered who some people were.
They all showed themselves.
And everybody in the back were jaws on the floor. And when the guys came back through the curtain, we all went to a room and we huddled up and we decided we're going to kill this angle. We're not doing this anymore. So, but that's how quickly things can go awry.
Mhm.
Wow.
So, like, would that be a 10 out of a 10 on the scale of, oh, we shouldn't have done that? And like a 5 would be, since we're in West Texas, like ICE taking out a Spanish guy. Would that be a 5? Like, do you have a scale
Here-
of like?
I
a
don't
scale of failure?
know. I don't know that we need to rate it. What I can tell you is
I'd say it's a 10 out of
In
10
my-
on that one. White power is just crazy.
It was awful. It was, dude. And here's the bad part. The real bad part about it. We had one guy in our crowd who was of color, and he sat in the back, and he loved our product. That was the moment that he got up and left and never came back.
Right. Yeah.
And I completely understood it. I had to have a phone conversation with him
Okay,
where
he's
I
okay.
apologized for it, make sure he was okay. That was, in my mind, the low point of our booking, because we tried to get too cute with the controversy. We tried to get too cute with pushing the envelope. And we discovered at that point there is a limit. And so now when I approach wrestling and storytelling, there are two places that I will not go. I will not go to race,
Yeah.
and I will not go to religion.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because both of those issues are so hot button that people change in front of your eyes. And it was hard to go out there the next week and talk to fans knowing that you guys just did this last week. That was very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to see 8-year-old children chanting white power.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
Goddamn shame.
The
It's not
cool
the
thing
Like
is,
that's where we like that's where you went. That's where you went. Like right out of the gate. That's where you went. Like that. But again, I will take full responsibility for that. That was my angle.
Yeah.
I misread the room, and that is something that I learned from, and I will never participate in something like that again. At Squared Circle Pro, 13, 14 years later, I had a all-black stable of guys that I specifically told them, because at the time I put them together, the BLM movement was happening. And it had nothing to do with that. We had these plans, it popped up, and I told them, here's the thing. You guys can go out here and be yourselves, but I don't want to see anything that stokes the racial fire. And if we can't do it, then we're just not going to do this.
Right.
So there weren't any 8-year-olds chanting white power at that point. Okay, so
I
you learned and
encourage
improved.
the fact that we are in a bar now. I try very hard to encourage people not to bring their children to a bar, but there are still people out there who do bring their kids to a bar, and I don't have any sympathy for what those people see or what they hear, because you're the idiot who brought your kid to a bar.
Exactly.
So,
Well, Rick, I wanted
just
to tell you, thank you for answering that question.
just to add on to that,
I don't have a problem talking about it. I need people to understand, if they see this, I am not putting that off on anybody but myself.
Right.
I'm the one who came up with that. I'm the one who learned a big lesson on that. And for anybody out there who thinks it's okay to push the envelope, I will never tell you not to push the envelope, because I do believe that there is an art to doing that, and that's fine. Just be prepared to own what you did, because at some point you're going to find out there's a wall.
Yeah.
And you're going to push it up against that wall, and that's where it stops.
Right.
So to add on some context to that storyline, afterwards, and this is how you could turn a negative into a positive, was the team that we spoke about. Rick kind of engineered a really cool face turn for them, and they ended up being one of the more beloved tag teams in WWA. So, it took 3 weeks. Yeah,
it took 3 weeks to get the same two guys they were chanting white power at to be cheering them like it never happened.
Rick Elsey, the king of pivots, Wrestling 101.
But I'll tell you, even though we saved that and were able to move past it, the fact that we were able to move past it so easily kind of pissed me off. And the reason it pissed me off is because it's something that I don't like about wrestling fans, and that is that they are so easily tugged in a different direction. And that comes from me as a child watching television. I won't say child because I was older than a child, but as a younger person watching television, watching the big boss man handcuff someone to the ropes every week and beat them with a nightstick, while Vince McMahon talked about how terrible it was and how Jack Tunney should step in and suspend him. And this is so awful, and I can't believe this is happening. And then the next week, they do an angle where Ted DiBiase pays Slick to have the boss man retrieve his $1 million belt from Jake the Snake Roberts' snake bag. And when the boss man realizes that they were paid to do it, he feels like, now I'm a cop on the take. I don't like that. And he took the belt back to Jake, and now he's feuding with DiBiase. And the very next week, he's handcuffing DiBiase to the ropes and beating him with a nightstick. And Vince McMahon is like, this is awesome. I'm like, no, it's the same thing. He's just doing it to a different guy. How are you going to forget that you were outraged 2 weeks ago?
Right. Right.
Anywho, we'll pivot real quick. So, Rick, I'm sure you have a greatest hits that if you met somebody for the first time and they're like, okay, all right, since you've booked and promoted, what are some of your favorite storylines that you've worked on, like either as of late or all time? So, I mean, this is where you play your greatest hits. Some of your greatest hits, don't give them all away, but
No. I think I've got a couple that come to mind. WWA, I believe the best thing that we ever did was the Slave for a Day storyline with Lilith Blood and Gloria Shockley, where we had Damien feuding with Mark Wilson, and as part of the feud, Gloria with Mark and Lilith with Damien both had their girl on the line as a slave to the other for 30 days or 60 days if they lost, which is not something that had been done in wrestling before. World-class championship wrestling, Jim Garvin and Precious lost a match to David Von Erich, and they had to be slaves for a day on the farm. That's been done before. Baby Doll lost 1-2 to Dusty Rhodes, same thing. But we did this angle, and so Lilith was now a slave to the Shockley dynasty, and every week we would parade them out. She would be on a dog leash, and she'd be wearing the same clothes. She would look progressively dirtier every week. They would make her eat dog food out of a bowl. They took turns spitting on her. They took turns slapping her, and Damien couldn't do anything about it because part of the contract was he had to stay 100 feet away. And so every week the heat got more and more. Chicks would be standing up at the guardrail screaming at Gloria, "Come do that to me, bitch." I mean, people were pissed.
It was a riot.
Pissed to the point that it was supposed to be 60 days. It was supposed to basically be 8 to 10 appearances before the next big event where we were going to undo it all and the baby faces were going to win the day. But about 4 or 5 episodes in, we could feel that the fires were very hot, and we didn't know if the crowd was going to be able to take much more before we might have a full-scale riot. And then as we were contemplating, that night they popped Gloria Shockley's tires on her car. And at that point, we were like, okay, we may need to back off of this. So
not as a part of the show. It was a real thing.
Oh, it was real.
Just extra footage.
Yeah. We pivoted out of it, and we had another match. Lilith got free. Crowd loved it. They had no idea that we pivoted out of it. They thought that's exactly what the plan must have been. And we came up with other stuff to do to get to the big show. But I thought it was really good, not because we had to pivot. It was good because we got such a visceral, natural reaction that you could tell that people were really invested.
The hillbillies are
and
like,
so,
how do we unpop a tire?
but so that was good. If I had to throw another one out there, I feel like, and I'll use WWA again. We had a character called Lobo the Clown.
Oh, I love Lobo.
And Lobo the Clown was originally conceived as a former inmate child murdering clown. That's what he was conceived as.
Oh my gosh.
And we debuted him that way and put him in a stable full of crazy nutball characters. And in a storyline with, again, Gloria Shockley was part of this, but she was a good guy this time. The guy playing Lobo on his own, came up with the idea that what if Lobo was in love with Gloria Shockley? And I thought, okay, well, this is a mute. He's a mute. He doesn't speak. He's a killer, but he's on a chain, like he's under control. But
He's in love.
how weird that this awful, terrible character might have enough of a heart to fall in love with somebody. Let's see what happens. And so he started carrying around a picture of Gloria, and the other bad guys were like, don't do that, you know. And they were all unhappy with it. But he was falling in love with Gloria. And then finally, in a moment where Gloria showed some kind of sympathy towards him, it like a spark took place that the crowd bought in on, and suddenly all they wanted to see was Gloria get together with Lobo the Clown. I don't know why, but it happened. And so we thought, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. So Lobo is actively pursuing her against the wishes of all of his buddies. She is actually in a relationship, or trying to be in a relationship with the ring announcer, who is really it's really her husband in real life, but they didn't know that. But they're having a connection here. And so the idea is Gloria wants to be happy with this guy, but here's this crazy nutball that wants to be happy with her. We get to the point in a story where Lobo's going to fight the ring announcer, and Gloria has to make a decision. But Gloria obviously wants to choose the ring announcer. So in a moment where he doesn't take his feelings into account, he actually shows a human side and takes her feelings into account. He essentially throws the match to allow her to be with the person she actually loves. All the bad guys turn on him, and in that moment, Lobo the Clown becomes the biggest baby face on the show. And for the next 4 months through the summer into the fall, it was the summer of Lobo.
Yep.
And he became a dancing clown who still wore a prison outfit, so messed up. And kids are coming into the ring and they're dancing with him, and they're doing the sea walk and they're dancing, and everybody's having. We would end every show with a fucking Lobo dance party. This guy in an orange prison outfit who's a child murdering clown dancing with kids in the. It's so messed up. So messed up. They ate it up. They ate it up. And I can't explain it. I can't explain it. But it was so amazing to watch people turn. And we didn't have to stoke that very much. They really kind of did that on their own. That happened organically. But it was because we took an opportunity to try something new that might seem outside of the box. And when we saw that it was working, we pivoted out of it into something else. And we created a mega baby face that should never have been a mega baby face. And we built to eventually him having a match with the top champion who was a heel at the time. And it was the biggest gate we ever had in that building in my tenure as a booker to that time. And it was, the circumstances were ridiculous, but we followed the formula and it worked.
Nice.
Yeah.
I can just
Very
imagine the hillbillies all sitting together before the show, getting their signs, and they're coming up with like cute nicknames for Gloria and Lobo. They're like Benifer for Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. They're like Glow Lobo, and that's the chant. They're just
But
like,
see,
you turned the crowd.
Globo.
There's a part
There you
two
go.
to that. There's a part two to that, because he spent all of 2007 and most of 2008 as a crazy baby face, and everybody loved him. And then during that time, Gloria Shockley turned heel. And she's creating this stable, a stable that would eventually be involved in the slave for 60 days spot that I told you about. And she wanted Lobo to be part of her stable because she knew deep down he was a killer. So they offered him a ton of money, and he wouldn't take it. Week after week after week, he wouldn't take it. And again, he doesn't talk much, but he mostly talks with his facial expressions. And finally, they give him the last chance to take this money, and he refuses it yet again. His tag team partner takes it and betrays him. And now the idea is conventional wrestling storytelling. We would build to a match between Lobo and his tag partner that turned on him. And eventually Lobo would teach him the error of his ways and go over, and everybody would have a dance party and we'd all be happy again. But that's not how I do things. Nope. So I was like, that seems like a way we could go. Or we could just destroy the dreams of every child in this building. And
just when you have the answers, Rick changes the questions.
Is we could have this final match. We could have this final match between Lobo and his ex-tag team partner be a loser leave town, and we could have Lobo be the one who loses. And when that happened, and Lobo's sitting in the ring, and to his credit, real tears, making real tears, kids in the crowd are beside themselves because their hero is crying. And because he's kind of a child at heart anyway, right?
Right.
Even though he's a child killer.
In that, we'd forgotten about that. We'd forgotten about that. Was the past. We don't talk about that anymore. So, but then in the moment when you would think, okay, like, what are we going to do now? Well, where are we going with this? Lobo's sitting in the ring and he's crying, and the ring announcer, is telling everybody, unfortunately, Lobo's going to have to leave, blah, blah, blah. From the back comes the original manager of Lobo from back in the very beginning, who is also a bad guy character in the show. Everybody still hates him. He comes to the ring with his stable, and he sits down in the ring next to Lobo, and he puts his arm around him, and he has the mic, and he's talking about how sometimes things don't work out the way that we want. Sometimes things happen that aren't fair. And it's about picking yourself up again. It's this nice little, he's like, okay, we're trying to teach a lesson here. It's weird that the guy who's saying it is the guy who's saying it, but we're trying to teach a lesson here. So then he's like, if you'll just come home, we can make everything better again. And in that sad moment where Lobo is completely broken and the crowd is begging him not to do this, he is so broken that he takes a deep breath, lays his head on the shoulder of the manager, and sighs a sigh of relief as this guy is rubbing his head. And the guy that's doing it looks up and looks at the crowd and smiles like, I fucking got him. And in that moment, children are wailing, crying. My sister's in the crowd. She texts me and she says, do you hate everybody that comes to this show? No. But in that moment, we turned him heel again. He took a couple of weeks off, and the next time we saw him was at Christmas, the Christmas episode, and he's back in the original makeup, looking evil as hell, and we had him come out and murder Santa Claus.
Yeah.
King of Pivot.
Now I was Santa Claus. I was dressed as Santa Claus that night.
Oh no.
And I had sat in the ring during intermission, and I had every kid in that building on my lap telling me what they wanted for Christmas, handing out candy, playing music. It was a whole thing, taking pictures. It was the happiest time for Christmas. And then when we were done and Santa was saying goodbye, here comes this stable, and Lobo smashes me in the corner. I fall. He drops a giant elbow, which we called the meat cleaver, on, and they beat the shit out of me. And every kid who had just told Santa what they wanted for Christmas, they ain't getting Christmas because Santa's dead.
Damn.
At the hands of the guy that they used to love.
Yep.
Like,
I'm very proud of that whole angle. I'm very proud of that whole angle.
Shout out Jason Gore.
And on next year's roster, we're going to have Art the Clown.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh man,
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Sounds
Yeah.
like it.
And I know a lot of people look at WWA and like rose tinted glasses and everything, but there were a lot of really cool things that happened. I mean, I think my first show for WWA was when Necro Butcher came in. And say what you will about Necro Butcher, but and my big thing, what I really enjoyed was Superstar V. When Violent V was in his superstar phase and Tony Estep was the manager, it was one of the best things, because I mean, V's got this little bit of a lisp to him, and he sounds a little bit like this. He's like, "Hey Rick, I want to go over this Manta idea real quick." But one of my favorite parts was he did one of these random shouts, like "I'm the best." And one of the hillbillies is like, "No, you're the worst." It was best. It was great. I love the superstar.
The reason that worked was because everybody had a preconceived notion of who V was, and they just expected him to do hardcore and bleed all the time. So we were like, why don't we try to do this for a little bit, where you're not going to do the hardcore, you're going to focus on wrestling. You're going to almost pretend to be an amateur wrestler in a sense, like a Kurt Angle or someone like that. And let's do a completely different take on V. Some people might not like it, but I'll bet you more people will find it entertaining than not. And it did. It worked.
It did.
Sometimes you just have to do the opposite of what you think is going to work. Try something different and see how that goes, because you can always pivot to something else.
Sure can.
But the answer is always no if you don't ask.
Right.
So try it.
Yep. And building onto V also is, there was like one time where the Sheik guy came into town. He was not the Sheik or the Iron Sheik or Sheiky Baby or anybody like that. It was a Sheik that came to the WrestlePlex and turned V into like an Arab, which was the funniest thing.
That was Al Farad, right?
Yeah, that was Al Farad. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He ended up growing this beard. I mean, he passed as like, a Middle Eastern guy, but I remember I was giving him a ride somewhere, and he's like, "Hey, Tyler Liger, I don't know if I want to be an Arab anymore. I might want to be back to being Violent V again. People liked me when I was Violent V." But that's a real thing. That's a real thing with a lot of wrestlers, especially on the indie scene. They have a hard time committing to a long-term program because they have a preconceived notion of what works for them or what might work for everybody else, and they try to get out of it too fast. Yeah.
And that's another reason why I take such time to pull people aside and talk about plans and get the buy-in, because I'm not going to ask you to do something if you're not 100% bought in on it, because you're going to half-ass it. If you're not 100% bought in, you're not going to deliver the goods. And if I can't depend on you to deliver the goods for X amount of time, then we're not even going to go there, because I'm not going to have to force myself to change gears when I didn't have to, if you'd have just come correct on your end of the bargain.
Yeah.
So that's why I try real hard to vet everything with everyone, because I need to know that they're bought in on it.
Right. Or you could have like a Rex Reed where he kind of evolves his character as well. And
yeah, I mean, an evolution's a big, but that's another thing. That's why you want to follow the path. If we commit to a path and we follow the path, there's all sorts of things that could happen on that path that are going to help evolve you, evolve somebody else, evolve stories. You never know what's going to be if you're not willing to go down the road. So don't be afraid to try something. Don't be afraid to commit to something. If you just want to wrestle one style against a handful of people for the rest of your life, then be the opening match or be the popcorn match on a show in your area and just accept whatever they throw at you. But if you want to do more, you've got to be open to wiggle room.
Absolutely. Or you could be conversely, you could be like El Gringo Loco and never change because
A
he
mosh
is
pit
so
Mike.
or be a mosh pit Mike.
You know, I had a guy that used to work for me, and he wanted to change his entrance music every week. Every week he would come to me with a new song he heard on the radio. I think this will be my entrance music tonight.
It's better songs.
And I would tell him, I'd be like, you do understand that when people hear a new song, they have no idea who's coming through that rope or coming through that curtain. When you come through, they pop. Yes, they pop. But don't you think it makes sense to have a brand and a certain song that when the song hits, they pop. And then when you come through the curtain, they pop again. Why are you trading the two pops for one just so that you can hear the cool song you heard on the radio today,
Right.
instead of playing to your brand and being the guy that's instantly recognizable by the first two chords of your song?
I've been listening to Youth Gone Wild for 20 years because that was an entrance theme of someone at the WrestlePlex, and I don't even remember the wrestler's name. I just know that
It was the tag. It was the
great.
tag team. It was the tag team generation. It was Generation Y,
Okay.
and it was Jason Zane and Leo Bramlett.
Oh.
And they
Jason
were
Zane.
Generation Y, and they came out to Youth Gone Wild.
And 20 years later, I remember it
Yeah.
just because that's a testament to what your point of view was. Don't change your music every week. Just because
No,
it's a good
and
song, you got to have that branding.
So then this guy was like, well, what do you want me to come out to? And I was like, well, here's the thing. If you're going to change your music, come out to something that is immediately recognizable. Don't come out to some indie band that you heard on Spotify that nobody knows. Don't do that. Come out to something that's recognizable. And this was back when we weren't filming anything and we didn't have to worry about copyrights. I told him, I said, I have an idea. I'm going to send you out to a song, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to send you out to a song. I guarantee you when the song plays, it's going to get a reaction because people know what it is. And then you're going to come through the curtain and you're going to get another reaction. And then next week, we're going to do it again with the same song. And I guarantee you, when it hits the first notes, they're going to pop because they know it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, okay, we'll see. So we play the song, and it's Oh Yeah by Yellow, which was from Ferris Bueller's Day Off at the end. You know, the Oh Yeah, that song, which is extremely recognizable. The whole beginning is a bop, and it played. They stirred because people knew it. He came through the curtain and they popped. Then he come back throughout the match. He's like, yeah, they popped, but they weren't real excited about it at first. And I said, well, then talk to me next week and we'll talk.
Next week, yeah.
Next week, that's boom. Oh, yeah. And the place shit their pants.
Mm.
And then he comes through the curtain and they shit their pants again. He came through the curtain after the match. He was like, okay, I don't want to hear it. You were right.
Say 30 years plus experience. Why not?
Yeah. I just remember
awesome.
like how like a guy like I'll give a shout out to him. Old Brandon McGregor. He started off as like Despair, and I remember I remember like I was like, you know, like, and then for a time he was just Brandon. And then he became Brandon McGregor, and then I felt like, okay, all right, he evolved to where he needed to be. And I remember you telling me, this is way back when, Rick. It's like, I don't think people are going to go see Brandon, but they'd be more likely to go see a Brandon McGregor at a show or some sort. But
because his real name is Brandon Pitcock.
yeah.
And when I met him, he was doing a character called Bart McClintock. And he was a cowboy character it was a take on the old McClintock movie. I think it's a John Wayne movie.
Yep. It is.
And it was given to him by a promoter who also liked cowboy stuff. So we'll just leave it at that. And it was given to him by a promoter. And, here's the thing. I like Brandon a lot.
I do too. He's a good guy.
Brandon looked the least like a cowboy than anybody I'd ever met. He didn't have, he was lanky. He had no muscle structure. I couldn't believe for 5 seconds that he could ride a horse. And so it's like, why are you coming out here looking like you're playing Halloween dress up? Like, what are we doing?
Those hillbillies aren't
So-
that bad.
At least he doesn't
That ain't
wear
no cowboy.
his chaps.
So I told him, I said, come up with something else, because I don't think the Bart McClintock thing's not working. So in the meantime, he ends up going over to work for the other show, and they come up with the amazing idea to make him Braveheart. So now you've got the guy who can't pull off a cowboy, and now you want him to pull off Mel Gibson in blue face paint. Okay. So he wears a kilt and puts blue on his face, and now he's Ian McGregor. And so that went over like a turd in church. And then he came back to my show, and I said, why don't we take off the blue face paint, because that's not working. Why don't we just embrace your Scottish heritage and let you just be Brandon McGregor? Because then if they want to ignore the Brandon, they could just call you McGregor, and at least you're wearing the kilt, so you've got some kind of bell and whistle, and it, we can ignore the fact that you don't have the big personality, and we can just do that. And that worked for a little bit. But he just never really clicked. So he wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something different. We didn't have kind of any supernatural dark characters at the time. So I thought, what if we pull you, take you off for a while, let people forget about you. We'll create a character that you can hide in, that's brand new, that no one's ever seen before. And we'll pull something spooky and creepy and see if that gets over. And so I had the idea to come up with the despair character. And we used the music that is in, if you've seen The Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves, the moment when they're in the boardroom and the big reveal has taken place and we know who Al Pacino is and he's going on his big speech, they play a Frank Sinatra song called It Happened in Monterey.
Okay.
And if you just listen to that song, there is a very creepy tone to that song. And so we started playing that song randomly during shows for about a month. We'd kill the lights and that song would just play and no one had any idea why. And then one show it happened, and then the curtain opened and the fog rolled out, and here comes this fucking monster that looks like it crawled out of a horror movie. And it gets in the ring and takes off its big coat and hat and all that stuff. And we had a prosthetic on him that gave him horns. And we painted him completely white, and he looked like a monster from hell. And the place bought it hook, line, and sinker. They didn't know who it was. They couldn't put two and two together. And it was creepy as fuck. It got over immediately. And even though it looked like it should be a heel, it became an instant crowd favorite. And every week when the lights would go down and the music hit, they'd pop like it was Hulk Hogan. And because they wanted to see the spectacle. And it worked until we got to the moment when a wrestler from out of town came in And
Oh,
I
no.
told him, I said, you cannot do anything to Brandon where you're grabbing him by the head. If you grab him by the head, the prosthetic's going to come off and we're fucked.
A shockmaster incoming.
And the first thing the guy did was grab him in a headlock, prosthetic came off.
Oh, no.
And the gimmick was now dead in the water because they knew who it was. The illusion was gone.
That's Bart McClintock.
And that's exactly what happened.
That's Brandon.
Husky Harris.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, but it worked for a little bit. It worked for a little bit, but it showed that, again, sometimes you just have to step completely out of the box. You're going to have to try something completely different than everything you've done, because everything you've done to now hasn't moved the needle at all. So if you want to be someone that's going to have some substance, we got to find something that moves the needle, and you can't do that without trial and error.
Yep.
And just to clarify, this is way before Conor McGregor. So, like, when he got the McGregor, it wasn't because of Conor. It was way before that. So.
No, it was based on Braveheart shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Keep it simple, I guess.
One of my other favorite WWE stories. I know I'm going down the whole WWE line of stories, but one of my favorites was it was a guy named Josh, and he was like a manager for somebody, and he had like, oh my god,
I know what you're about to talk about.
Yeah, and it's the this is where I shined as a wrestling fan, man. And it was so good. He comes out and he's in this like cloak, and he's supposed to look really scary. And I'm like, look, it's Uncle Fester. and they got the whole crowd chanting Uncle Fester, and Josh is just losing his shit. And Josh is already a character in himself. Like, I mean, if we bring up Josh, Rick will just roll his eyes and be like, okay, all right, yeah, we know all about him. But...
Look, Josh had a really good mind for stories and
he
characters.
Did. He was a super nice guy too.
Why do you wear
Josh
cape, though?
Josh was
Uncle Fester.
Well, I'll tell you why. He was very, very creative, but he didn't have a lot of personality on his own. He didn't have a lot of inherent charisma. He was very awkward, and but he knew how to flip a switch when he had a microphone in his hand, and he could talk as a manager. So we had him come in as a manager, and we gave him the name Lucius Valentine. And what happened was he was kind of languishing as a manager, and didn't really know what to do with him, because we kept putting him with people who then something would happen and those people be off the show. We could never get anything rolling. And then we had a guy come from Colorado who was named Ronan the Rock and Roll Vampire.
Oh, I remember Ronan.
And Ronan, the idea was we were going to create a Lost Boys type stable, very much like the Brood, but we were going to go full Lost Boys, and they was all going to look like the Lost Boys. We weren't going to go with like mythic gothic stuff. It was going to be leather jackets, vampires, that was what we were going to do. And in the storytelling, he bit two of the wrestlers and turned them into vampires. Now, this is wrestling, and, like you do. I don't know. And then Ronan stopped coming.
Yeah.
And now I'm stuck with two vampires. I don't know what to do with them. So I thought, well, let's have them bite Lucius. So they bit Lucius, and in trying to turn him into a vampire, he went too heavy with the cake makeup, and he ended up looking like Uncle Fester. And then
good thing he had the king of pivots on his side, though.
Tyler, being the great help that he was
at the time, yeah.
Tyler completely ruined all the aura by starting the Uncle Fester chant.
Way to go,
And
Tyler.
now there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. We're not coming back from this. So I thought there's no way to fix this. I don't know what to do. And one of the other wrestlers came to me and said, well, why don't you just have the vampires kill him?
Yeah.
And I
Seems
said,
legit.
well, how the hell are we going to do that? And they were like, here's an idea.
Oh no.
So the way this played out, and I'm going to look, this was not my idea, but I'm the one who allowed it to happen. So I will take responsibility for it again, but not in the same way. I knew this was going to be terrible, but I didn't know what else to fucking do. So we're just, whatever. Josh was going to leave because he was very upset about all the Uncle Fester stuff. So he was going to leave and be done.
He was still
So
pissed off
again-
at me. He was still pissed off at me.
Tyler destroyed people's dreams too. Well, just me. So I was like, okay, how are we going to do this?
He didn't
So
get
what they're gonna do is the way that the warehouse was set up at that time, the ring was set in a way that one side of the ring there was about 4 feet of room between the wall and the ring. There was no chairs on that side of the building. So it was very much like the ring's here and the crowd is here and there's nothing here. So they attack him and they're killing him. They dump him on the side of the ring that nobody can see. And on the other side of the ring, we've got all kinds of raw meat and junk, and they start just tossing meat like they're eating him. They're killing him. And then they toss a severed head that looks just like him, covered in blood. We essentially murdered him in the show. Now,
I'm sorry.
You get what you pay for. $10
Now-
is a great
Tyler's
deal.
All $10.
now
I bet you that meatball's
everybody that was there thought it was awesome. I hated every second of it. And I don't know where you come, like, again, where do we go from here? This is why you don't paint yourself into a corner.
Mhm.
Okay? So then the saving grace, and I can't believe that this is the way that this was, the person who finally fixed it all was the pre-mentioned Violent V. Because V said, why don't Spam and I, who were a tag team at the time, they were kind of doing this trucker gimmick that everybody loved.
It's
Came
like
out
Little Country
in
Boys or something.
it was basically like the Godwins meet the Bushwhackers with Stone Cold's beer gimmick.
Yeah.
Crowd loved it. And they came out to attack the vampires, and they took pliers and they pulled out their vampire teeth and turned them back into normal people.
That's smart. That was actually a good
Plot hole.
idea.
All
So,
movies- all
Bing,
movies
bing
should
bang,
just consider
boom.
that.
2 weeks later, everybody's their regular character, and we're just going to forget that any of this happened.
Nice.
Wrestling fans have the memory of gnats, like you said.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I remember all of it, and the shame is real.
Probably like 30-year-olds who were like teenagers at the time who were traumatized, though, to be fair.
Oh, I am sure that somewhere out there is somebody telling their children, one time at a wrestling, like they're watching wrestling on television, one time I was at a show where they killed a guy and they chopped his head off. And he wouldn't be wrong because we did.
And
So,
Tyler will be over there in the corner going, yeah, and this one time I caused this to happen.
Yeah. Good
Oh,
times.
it really does. Tyler shares some blame. Tyler
I
shares
do.
some blame.
I'll take full responsibility. That's okay. That's okay.
But
I
again,
thought you were such a nice guy. You fooled me.
these are these are some of the things that stand out to me as what not to do. Which goes back to my original conversation of, I remember, like, he brings that up and I'm like, oh my God, because that's one of the things that we don't do anymore.
Yeah.
So when someone comes to me and says, I'd like to play a vampire character, I'm like, fuck you. We're not doing it.
We can't take your teeth out that easy, you know. You could become unhinged.
No, because where are we going to go? We can't go.
Don't wear a cape. Easy on the makeup.
Here's another thing. This is another thing that I think it affects the business today. 40 years ago, when the business was still protected and you had an aura of deniable plausibility, you could have supernatural gimmicks. You could have monsters. You could, if you took The Undertaker from 1992, he doesn't work today. If you take Kamala the Ugandan Giant from 1984, he doesn't work today. I can't convince people that this guy is a cannibal from the jungles of Africa because they know that's bullshit. I can't convince anybody that this guy is a living zombie who can control electricity because they don't believe it. Back in the day, they may not have fully believed it, but there was enough of a plausible deniability and a want to believe that you could get sucked into the character, and it was cool to see him come out and raise the lights, Right. But that stuff doesn't work now because the business is openly exposed as entertainment, admittedly entertainment. So the more outlandish stuff from 40 years ago doesn't play anymore. But you still need to let these people try to believe what they want to believe, because if they know that it's all a work, admittedly a work, and they're still coming to pluck their money down, that means they're asking you for the opportunity to let them escape. So if they want to escape, let them escape. Don't slap them in the face with how fake this is. That's why I get bent out of shape about the stuff that is abhorrently fake. Because when you're trying to give me a match that I can sink my teeth into, and then the very next segment, you're throwing something at me that insults my intelligence, that affects my viewing experience. Mm-hmm. You're either all comedy or you're no comedy. Mm-hmm. Because in this day and age, to sprinkle blatant comedy, you can have comedic situations that unfold, but to sprinkle blatant comedy when you're sandwiched in between serious situations, I don't think people have the ability to process that anymore because everyone's in on it. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Right.
You can't unpop the tires, hillbillies.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Callback.
Anywho, I mean, we got plenty more stories that we could save for other days. Rick, I'll have you recap kind of what's been going on with Squared Circle Pro as of late, and then also kind of what's on tap for the next show in September, because the last show was really fun, Drunk with Power, and then the Birthiversary is looking like it's going to be a really fun show. So I'll let you kind of recap and have us look forward to it.
Well, for 14 years at Squared Circle Pro, I have always been the babyface in charge. And the fans have come to know me only in that vernacular. We had a situation befall us the end of last year, beginning of this year, where we knew we were going to have to pivot and change our business model a little bit. We were going to have to seemingly back off a little bit on some of the things we were doing for several different reasons. And rather than lay all of that out on the table for everybody to see, I decided that what we should do is completely turn the show upside down. And the one thing we'd never done at SCP was have me be the bad guy. So I turned heel at the end of the March show and basically blamed the change of direction on the fact that for 14 years, I have been giving the fans a product that I thought that they would enjoy. And now I have decided that they are not worthy of it. And I don't believe that they deserve it anymore. And so now we're going to do things my way. And they don't like that at all.
Nope.
So what I took inspiration from was in the Memphis territory for years and years and years, there was always one big heel manager, and his stable was pretty much every heel in the promotion. And so instead of giving myself a 3 or 4 person group, the narrative became, you're either with me or you're against me. So every heel in the promotion is on my side. So therefore, the baby faces must now put all of their issues aside and come together to defeat this wave of suppression that is now happening. Now, we are stoking a little bit of the current political environment of our country when we do some of this stuff, but that's resonating. People are getting behind it. And we're saying all the quiet things out loud. We're doing some very shocking things. We're doing stuff that we haven't really done before. We're going a little bluer than we used to at times, much to the shock of some people. But what we're doing is we're building a crescendo to the penultimate moment where my character either takes over and everything changes, everything that everybody loved dies, or the baby faces rally and take the day and I'm sent out to pasture and the world can breathe a sigh of relief. So that's where we are, and that's kind of the narrative that we're on. And we've got 2 more shows to turn the year out to find out what steps we take in 2026, whether the dark cloud falls over the promotion and we are now in the dark times, or whether or not the baby faces can rally and maybe we are in a civil war, or, it's just going to depend on where we go. And that's kind of what we're doing now. We've consolidated talent. We're doing far more promo and storytelling. We're going heavy into my character as a heel. And like I said, I got my first death threat. So that was a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah, this coming show, Birthiversary, is our anniversary show. This will be the end of year 14 and the beginning of year 15. And the main narrative of this show is that I have a champion that I have bestowed the championship upon. And we have the previous champion that I wanted to relinquish the title, but he's refusing. And they have partners, and they're going to go head to head in the main event. And if the bad guys win, then the baby face is going to relinquish the title that I wanted him to relinquish to begin with. Or if the baby faces win, that baby face is going to get a match with the heel that has the interim title. And we're going to go title for title to find out who the real champion is at the last show of the year. Mm-hmm. So that's where we are for Birthiversary. We've got some surprises. There's going to be a couple of returns from people in the last few years. We're going to do some things. They're going to be kind of fun. We're going to do some shocking stuff. But it should be a fun celebration. and a fun narrative. I'm looking forward to it. I can tell you that right now I'm having more fun doing what we're doing than I've had in several years. So it's a good time. And if anybody can't be in Lubbock for the show, which is on September 20th, if they can't be in Lubbock for the show, they can go to YouTube and search Squared Circle Pro. And there is a page owned by our general manager, TJ Mundell, that houses our archive. And the show will air live on YouTube.
Cool.
Yep. Pretty cool. Pretty cool, and worth every single cent of the $10 you pay to get in the door. Also, Jake's is such a really cool environment too. It's essentially like a back room that's used for concerts primarily. I know Tanner and I are very well initiated with Jake's back room, but for the uninitiated, it's a lot of bands have performed there, and honestly, like, it has come a long way since just where the door was just the curtain. The door into the back was just the curtain. You go through the door and the curtain, and boom, there you are. It's actually got a really cool setup now, and the stage is used for all the technical resources, and that's right. I kind of perch up there. The first show, the last show, I was with Lee XL, and we had a blast. I mean, it was really fun to go back and forth with a guy with a bigger guy that thinks he belongs on a L'Oreal commercial. But very entertaining. I think we went on these really weird tangents, like where we talked about Christopher Reeve and Superman, and we just have a lot of fun up there in the announce table, and every now and then we'll get a little bit of a surprise. Somebody will get their mic cut out at the right time because there will be some sort of technical issue that the commentating crew has nothing to be a part of, and the guy comes up and starts pressing buttons, but we love him for it. So
we had some issues with the last show with the audio production, but a lot of that was because the building was so hot.
It was very hot.
So much of the equipment was having problems because it was triple digits inside the building.
Yeah, it was a sweat box.
But they've fixed the air conditioning system. Everybody that I've talked to that's been in the building since the last show says that Jake's is very comfortable now.
Oh, awesome.
So birthiversary shouldn't be an issue.
Cool.
If they wouldn't have, you could have pivoted and then brought in a guy that was like the AC repair guy, and then a heel could have beat him up.
Don't forget the
That's actually really funny. I like that.
Yeah. Saturday, September 20th, if I'm correct, Rick.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So we'd love to see y'all there. Whoever catches this live and whoever catches the VOD, which the VOD, the cool thing with YouTube is it saves all your live streams. So I mean, yeah, we're essentially a VOD. So come on out and and be loud, be proud. Pro wrestling, I always say is, it's a two-way street. It's like my old, my current profession of journalism, it's a two-way street. You need the people to talk to you, and you need the people to reach out. So, but anywho, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. I've been the guy that's been switching gears and directing things around. But so Tanner, we talked about. I know you been keeping track of the gathering, the 2-day event, and I just want to get your thoughts from the gathering, because the gathering always has surprises.
Yeah, so this is the 25th anniversary of the Gathering of the Juggalos.
Wow, it's surprised it lasts
There's
that long.
approximately about 11,000 people in the forest of Ohio at this huge venue that the Insane Clown Posse has been running. And the headliner, there's music, there's wrestling, there's comedy, there's all that there is to come with the Juggalos and that type of brand. So lots of exciting things going on: face paint, piercings, tattoo. If you're just anybody who wants to get cultured on the gathering of the Juggalos, there's a lot of documentaries on YouTube as it's gotten a lot successful. With a lot of the wrestling, it really ties into the Squared Circle Pro, the WWA, the WrestlePlex. You're looking at like these venues want to bring in promotions to really get their story, get everything built up, and then have a major blow off. So if you haven't been in the know of what the Juggalos are up to, they've had Juggalo Championship Wrestling for, I would assume, since the WCW days. I remember it 20 years ago. So they've been around a while. And with YouTube now, they've done weekly shows. They've done a lot of different things that if you're not a fan of AEW or WWE, you can find something that you're looking for with indie wrestling on JCW's YouTube. So what they've been doing is they've been building to the gathering, and this has been months of feuding with another promotion. The other promotion is called Game Changer Wrestling. So Brett Lauderdale runs a GCW out of New Jersey. So what they've been doing is collaborating between the two promotions in an all-out war leading up to the gathering of the Juggalos. The Juggalos is home turf. They're going to defend these invaders who have been causing chaos and attacking the shows and ruining everything. So the thing about the two promotions is these are the fallouts of the main promotions. These are the people that the Dolph Zigglers of the world, the Bradshaw, JBL, Farouk. You're going to get so many surprises of people that just aren't under contract. So what I was really looking forward to with the gathering of the Juggalos is I have a lot of friends that cross over in wrestling, comedy, and, you know, the likes of those type of other things I mentioned. But everything was leading up to the all-out war. They were going to have it on 2 nights. They were going to have a best of 7 each night leading up to who, if Game Changer Wrestling was going to win, they would put the Juggalos out of business on their home turf and take over.
Oh.
So basically, this has been going on since about April, which, as you can see with what Rick mentioned, these stories take a lot of time to build. But what's different is the setting of the gathering of the Juggalos. They're in a pavilion. This is all created. This seems like some type of dreamscape of wrestling that you just walked into, just like I did 20 years ago at the WWA warehouse. It's an environment unlike any other, to where you're just walking into the wolves den. And you have wrestlers like they're just 2 clowns that are the tag team champions on the Juggalo side. They're 2 brothers about 6'5" each, but they do luchador type moves. So those are your selling points against the more polished Game Changer Wrestling, the ones that want to respect the craft and they hate everything about what the Juggalos are doing. And on the Juggalo side, you have these characters that are just running rampant. Like you have a wrestler called Steven Flo, and he's gotten a lot of viral success. He comes out to a Steven Flo, a play on like the grunge 90s, and the crowd just gets into it.
Yeah.
You have a wrestler that goes by Cocaine, a play on Kane, and he's the devil's favorite dealer. So he brings, you know, he has his gimmick where he has cocaine in the match. And you have
snorting lines and killing shines.
Then you have Steven Flo tagging with him, and then you have a guy named Luigi Primo, who's a New Jersey, like he's just like walked out of a pizza kitchen, you know. So you're gonna find a lot of things with the Juggalo Championship Wrestling of those characters that, like Rick said, wouldn't be realistic today, and you're not going to believe that that's Cocaine, the devil's favorite drug dealer, or Steven Flo, a guy who walked out of a 90s grunge rock video, or Luigi Primo doing the flipping up the bread. You know, it's just something so interesting. It's kind of a blow off from what I would assume is between between a music festival, a comedy show, wrestling, and all the other things that go on during the day. So check out The Gathering of the Juggalos. It's really entertaining stuff to look from afar from what I've seen. I wouldn't never see myself getting in there and painting my face and, piercing my tongue, but, who's to say? But the GCW, JCW, All Out War is on YouTube. It's on the Insane Clown Posse. There's about 3 hours of content each night from the last 2 days, and it's all about leading up to the war between Game Changer Wrestling and Juggalo Championship Wrestling. And you'll have to just check out to see if the Juggalos were able to keep everything on board on their side, and Juggalo Championship Wrestling keeps on coming. So lots of surprises. I've had a lot of boots on the ground. Some comedians that I want to shout out. This is the first time they're doing they're doing comedy at the gathering, but Big J Okerson, Louis J Gomez, Tim Butterly, and Zach Amico.
Okay.
So what really got me into this Juggalo Championship Wrestling is Zach Amico is a big clown type he's a big guy, paints his face. All he ever wanted to be was a Juggalo, and looked up to ICP type as far as what you can tell from him. But he's been doing a podcast that I really like for the last probably 5 to 7 years, and he became a commentator on Juggalo Championship Wrestling. So when he got into that from the stand-up roots, I was just like, okay, a stand-up comedian is perfect as a commentator, just to give the little quick insights here and there. And it's raw, it's unfiltered. We're on Unfiltered, so
That's right.
Perfect for what we're into. And wrestling, comedy, music. I mean, the music ICP is not my cup of tea, but there's something for everybody there. So check out Game Changer Wrestling versus JCW All Out War, and also just get into the gathering to see how people live nowadays, because there's a lot of life out there that we haven't tapped into.
There is, and don't forget the Faygo flavored wieners.
Yes,
Yeah,
Faygo dogs.
Faygo dogs. So, nice. Yeah. And then I think Ed, you've been kind of listening to a little bit of ICP as of late, haven't you?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No. To touch on what he's talking about, they released a new album there. It's called The Knot on August 12th. They put it on streaming platforms. I have seen confirmed photos from their merchandise booth that there is an actual CD coming, but it's probably not going to be available to the public till after the gathering. I listened to it. It was, in my opinion, I don't care who hates or likes what I got to say, but it was okay. It didn't sound like the gimmick that you were hearing through most of the carnival decks. It sounded like a new flavor, a new twist, or even maybe their old school stuff before they even started the carnival. But I listened to it and I liked it, but I just wasn't, wowed by it.
Sure.
So, that's just my opinion. What was the other thing? Story I saw on Reddit from Juggalo sub channel was that there was this guy. We were talking about clowns. This guy went in Art the Clown costume and took a photo with this girl who was wearing, I guess, really short jean cutters and, well, needless to say, I guess she was wearing a bikini top, but there wasn't much there for it.
Sure.
Anyway, I guess she asked him to take a photo, or he wanted a photo with her. It had to be the other way around. And he actually ended up grabbing her on her chest in the photo. And so there's another video upload of her going up to him and yelling at him and confronting him with the mask off and I guess putting him on blast. So that being the worst thing that happened there, I'm sure there's other great experiences going on. People are getting together, just hanging out, chilling, having a nice time. But, watch yourself at anywhere you go, because there's always going to be somebody out there who's trying to be weird about it.
Yeah.
There was a wet t-shirt contest. An 85-year-old OnlyFans model won the t-shirt contest.
My God. Oh, no.
Isn't that kind of a little rowdy?
I don't have an OnlyFans.
No.
She does have free content up if anybody's interested.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right.
Moving on.
Yeah. So, like, I think,
Unfiltered, not pornographic.
right. But
Yeah, don't need to get unhinged.
probably one of my favorite stories from the gathering is when,
Maybe 15 more minutes.
Tila Tequila got on stage, and this was, mind you, this is probably about what, 15 years ago now.
Roughly,
Yeah, roughly.
Her
When
15 minutes
when
has
she
ran
was-
out long ago.
yeah, when she was a big deal, and it was really funny because, like, she kind of started like playing like a heel to the Juggalos, and that's something you don't do. And then she tried to appease them by flashing them, and then she ended up getting a beer bottle up against her head. And if I remember correctly, I think like some of my friends, like Duke Cornell and all those guys, shout out Duke Cornell, who will probably be a future guest on the show. They were all at camp. They were all camping, and Chris Hero runs over to the camp, and he's like, "Oh man, look what happened!" Like, it's like, did you guys see what happened to Tila Tequila? She got a beer bottle like thrown against her head, and it was bad. I think she got like stitches from it and everything, but
Oh man.
yeah, that
She
was,
threatened to sue them. She's in a tweet back then. She put, "Pretty soon the owners who run the Juggalos will be bankrupt."
oh geez Louise.
25th anniversary. That was a
That
long
made
time
on
ago.
that made on CNN.
Oh,
Yeah.
if you guys have known, also in the wrestling show, speaking of throwing stuff, you know, wrestling gets a little wild. Juggalos are in the crowd. Brian Zane, one of the wrestling YouTubers I really
Wrestling with
enjoy.
Regret, yeah.
Yeah, so he did a little segment, and it's pretty much like ECW nostalgia of people throwing things into the ring at him. So, yeah, check out Brian Zane, Wrestling with Regret.
Yeah, yeah. The influencer Brian Zane. He does have some really good like wrestling retrospectives, so that's always entertaining. Okay, so like in Tanner, you brought up the Gathering. Another show that happened last night was Triple Mania, which I really liked because it was free on YouTube, just like the Gathering shows. So like quite a few matches. It did feel like a WWE show since, you know, WWE's a huge owner of AAA, and
Very sports entertaining.
very sports entertaining. But AAA was always like that though. But a lot of familiar faces. One of my favorite Exoticos was on the was on the Copa Bardal match, which was won by Omos. And funny story about AAA is it would get on back when I was a kid in Iowa. It would come on. Granted, kid is probably when I was in high school, so we would go hang out at a friend's basement, and it was like, and I remember it was like me, Craig, who pops on and chat every now and then, Duke Cornell, and then Carter, and then myself, and I'd fall asleep for like a few hours, and I'd wake up, and it'd be like 1:30 or 2 in the morning, and we're watching AAA, and we're watching people like oh gosh, it's like this midget guy. He looks like he's the White Ranger, so we called him the White Ranger off of like Power Rangers. And I mean, the name eludes me at the moment, but
Masquerita Sagrada Jr.
That's it. And we used to call him the White Ranger. And then there was like another one, and it was an Exotico, and we named him Pat. Just a very like just. We were like, okay, all right, this name is like too hard to pronounce, so we're just gonna call him Pat. And Pat was on that gauntlet match, and the spot with Otis was really, really entertaining. But Microman, I thought Microman stole the show, so it was. But overall, the show was very entertaining. I had no expectations going into it. You know, I think
I thought it was. No, go ahead.
Oh, you know, I think the only one I missed was Pagano and Psycho Clown versus Los Garza. But other than that, I think I caught everything else. And
you missed the biggest train wreck on the show.
Oh, okay, all right. So Better off for it.
No, I went in. I've gone into this WWE AAA relationship very tenuously because I am admittedly not a huge fan of lucha, and that's just because for me it is far too choreographed, and I feel like I'm just watching acrobatics at a circus. Which is fine. That if that's what it's supposed to be, and that's what it's supposed to be, that's okay. It's just not for me. I'm not their target audience.
Mhm.
But what I enjoyed about Worlds Collide a while back was, and I was happy that it was happened again at Triple Mania. What I believe WWE has done for them is they've kept the features, they've kept the staples, but they have weeded out the redundancy of lucha, because traditional lucha shows are centered around multiple trios matches and trio stables. And for me, I mean, I can only watch so many trios matches in one show.
Oh, I agree.
And so, and when they're all essentially the same, because we're doing the same acrobatics, it gets very redundant. And I feel like WWE has pulled the redundancy out. But at the same time, they allowed an Exotico, they allowed a mini. They are keeping some of the core characters, but they're not cramming them down people's throats. They're letting you come to them naturally.
Mhm.
And I feel like all you have to do is look at the fact that the YouTube video of the show peaked at 1.3 million viewers to show that WWE is not trying to change AAA. They're trying to enhance it, develop it, and grow it so that they can utilize it down the road when they need to. It's no different than another brand. And if you look at what they've done for AAA, look at what they've done for TNA.
Mhm.
You know, TNA just had their largest crowd in history. And if you think that's not because of the association with NXT, I don't know what you're watching. So the idea is get eyes on the product. And I felt like Triple Mania got eyes on the product, but they also did some other things. They allowed Natalya to bring her natty indie character in presentation without going full-flown Natty Neidhart. But they allowed her to come out in a minimal presentation, and I believe they did that to see what would happen, to see what the reaction would be.
Sure.
And it got a great reaction. And fans online, it's all they could talk about. So I feel like, you know, not only are they enhanced AAA, but they've got an opportunity through AAA to enhance some of their own talents that they don't have time to enhance on their own shows. And have any WWE presence on a show like AAA or like Bound for Glory coming up for TNA, all that's going to do is put eyes on their products, and it's going to enhance everybody. So I really think that people need to take that into account before they just like, oh my God, they're changing everything. No, they're not. They're actually weeding out the ridiculousness, and they're making it more palatable for the actual casual fan, which again goes back to my other conversation we were having.
Yep.
When all you're booking for is your niche crowd, you're never going to go anywhere. You have to book for the casuals, because those are the people that are going to show up and spend money.
Right.
Right.
Most of the people that gripe about companies getting outside of the niche, most of those people are online looking for free streams all the time. They don't want to spend any money on the product. You're not a real fan anyway. So why are you trying to gatekeep a certain product that needs to grow when you're not even a real fan to begin with?
Right.
I just go in with no expectations. Like, I just don't. You know,
Can't get disappointed that way.
yeah. I mean, I just don't go in. I mean, I don't even watch like Raw or SmackDown anymore. And you know, Rick, you could beat me up over that by not following wrestling as much as I used to. But
That's on you, dude. I don't care. Whatever you want to do.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like we got 20
Here's
hours
the
a
thing.
week that we're
Here's the
enjoying.
thing. Here's the thing. The only thing I will say about that, if you are not somebody who is currently following the product, if you don't watch regularly on television, but your opinion stems from the words of other people online who are watching it, and you're forming an opinion based on something you've heard somebody say, I don't care to hear what you have to say,
sure.
because you're coming from a place of context. You're regurgitating somebody else's outrage.
Right.
You are not invited to the cookout. You cannot yeet with us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I stopped listening to Jim Cornette's podcast, because I enjoy listening to him talk about historical stuff,
Oh, absolutely.
because he's a wealth of information, but I don't like his take on the current product, and not with WWE, AEW, I don't care what it is. I don't like his current takes because I know that he watches a minimal amount of it, fast forwards through the rest, and then allows Brian Last to get him worked up so that everything that comes out of his mouth is hate.
And he's really
And
just
so
an
I
old
stopped-
man yelling at the cloud.
I-
Like, that's what
exactly.
he is.
I stopped listening because I love his history, but his perspective on current wrestling doesn't resonate to me because he doesn't watch enough to have enough context to what's going on, so that the things I know he does know, they don't resonate because he has no true context.
Right. Right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying this like from, you know, my perspective, and I've watched enough wrestling to get it. But yeah, like, I mean, I think, you know, what's nice when it comes to just watching the pay-per-views is you're filtering through things. What I mean, back in the day, and Rick, Tanner, Ed, you guys can all attest to this, is back in the day, like the packages before the pay-per-view would actually get you caught up to speed in you know, in a condensed amount of time, and still get you hyped up for the match. Like, I mean, and get through like the weeks of storyline building and everything like that, where, and then it's like, oh, it's put into a nice little package. It filters out all the goofiness, or all the, you know, like the Mae Young giving birth to a hand, or
It stays on point.
Yeah, it stays on point and it stays concise. And then you're like, okay, well, now I can really look forward to this match. I mean, probably like a really good example. When I was a kid, I didn't really watch. I would get caught up on wrestling through like WWF Livewire, or if I miss Livewire on Saturday morning, I'd watch Superstars, and it would get you caught up on all the week's events and be super concise. I remember being, when I was a kid, I was hyped up for the Dog Kennel from Hell match, dude. And that is such a terrible match, but I remember being hyped up because
Punjabi prison.
yeah,
something like
because
that.
it was just how it was crafted package wise, and I was like, oh man, I so want to watch that match, and I never did, and it ended up being a stinker anyways. But you know, it was kind of the fun part back then, was it's like you were watching that sort of stuff. You were watching, and then you were just getting hyped up through the packages, and they do all the fancy, you know, I mean, back then, like their graphics department or their video packages were amazing. And I get hyped up over like the smallest things, or, I mean, there's my example, like Dog Kennel from Hell, you know, which I think they use, like, it was the old WWF like the old WWF cage within like, was it within like was it within like a modern cage, or was it within the Hell?
No, it was literally just Hell in a Cell.
Right.
They dropped Hell in a Cell, but they had dog handlers and live dogs inside the ringside area, with the whole idea being you don't want to get thrown out into the pit of dogs. But they didn't take into account that the dogs would start pooping and live on television, or some dogs would start trying to breed on live television. And so
Oops.
it was like the camera had to keep cutting because every time they'd try to do a spot with the dog, something inappropriate would start. And I
Can't trust those dogs,
I don't
man.
know how that if ever we needed the WWE concept of the Unreal show, we needed it back in the Attitude Era, because I want to see the production meetings where we're talking about this stuff, and I want to see who's responsible for saying it. I want to see who greenlights it. I want to see who's against it and why. I want to be in those conversations, because sometimes you look at stuff like Kennel from Hell and you just be like, how did that even become a thing? Like, who said that was cool?
And then it's a cut, and Michael P.S. Hayes is, got him. Just like he did in Unreal.
Oh, man.
So bad. Kennel from Hell was terrible.
It was bad.
Probably about as bad as Jey Uso winning the Rumble, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with Jey Uso winning the Rumble. I thought that sometimes I feel like you got to read the room, and you got to find out if somebody's hot, you got to strike while the iron's hot.
Everyone's
saying, I think there is. I think that, and here's the other thing that goes along with that for me. You always hear people say, "Oh, they should have done this. They should have gone with this guy, or it should have been this guy, or it should have been this guy." My question for somebody when they propose something for a character, they say, "Okay, I really think that they should, LA Knight should have beaten Roman Reigns for that title on that show." And I always ask, like, when they say that, I'm like, okay, but let's say he did. What then?
We would be going,
what next?
Hey, Knight, instead of
what happens? What happens? Do you think LA Knight has enough to actually carry that? Do you think that the fans like him enough for that to resonate for a period of months? Because here's the bigger problem. Let's say you pull that trigger. And then say 3 months from then, the internet crowd that was supporting him turns on him like they started to turn on Jey Uso. And then the next thing you know, not only have you put LA Knight in a position to now have to fight to gain support back from people he lost it to, what have you done to Roman, and what all have you sacrificed for Roman because you wanted to have that cool moment?
Yeah,
right.
So that's the other piece of it, is that you look at Roman's run before Cody, everybody was positive it should have been Drew. They were positive it should have been Kevin. They were positive it should have been Sammy. They were positive it should have been Cody. And then when it wasn't Cody, it was positive it should have been LA Knight. It's like, it can't be everybody. And not everybody can be the superstar.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at...
to ruin happily ever afters.
Well, you can ruin the happily ever after, but you have to, if you're going to ruin the happily ever after, you better have another happily ever after in your back pocket to cordon those fans. Because if you take away what was awesome and you don't have a plan, you're dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel Universe experienced that firsthand after Endgame, when they spent one movie and they killed Iron Man and they took away Captain America, and now we have a whole new slate of movies to put out, and we've got a fan base who are not ready to let go of those characters, and we're trying to introduce all these new people, and they don't want to hear it because you took away the people that we loved.
Mm-hmm. We want truth. We want cross.
Look at that. The truth thing. Everybody lost their freaking minds about R-Truth getting let go. They bring him back, cut his hair, make him Ron Killings, and what did the fan base do? Immediately bitched because we don't have funny R-Truth. So now we get funny R-Truth back, and what does the fan base do? Start bitching because we never got anything from Ron Killings. You don't get to have both. You either get one or you get the other. You can be outraged, but be outraged about one thing at a time, and understand that most of what has happened is on you guys anyway, because you're the ones who bitched about something that you honestly really didn't care that much about.
Right. The fans are like Darkside Phil. They can never, ever be wrong.
Everyone else
But yet they're wrong all the time.
Yep. They're wrong all the time. Yep. Oh, yeah.
Man.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm trying to think of some other talking points. I mean, I think we brought up plenty of stuff. You know, good old WWA
have had
stories.
a wonderful conversation.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, and the cool thing is Rick's always down to coming back. I mean, at least I hope so. I mean, I hope we gave you a good first impression.
Dude, the reason why I've never had a podcast set up in my room myself, if I had what you have right now, I'd be on it all day. Because it's not a good idea. I can be a guest on a show. I can co-host a show. I can have a structured amount of time to talk. If you just give me the setup, I'm going to abuse it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think that's the problem with us too. We're going into the deep end. Big dreams, big things, you know. Lots of things for this Unfiltered podcast.
Yeah, we're getting into the
rocking and
weeds.
rolling.
Yeah. Anywho, I'm going to be the master pivoting here, but Ed, I'm going to go over to you because you just got back from North Dakota. So tell us about your trip.
Well, obvious stats. It was a 16-hour drive, about 1,000 miles. That was a pain in the rear. And I remember going there with my father and my mom when I was a little boy, but we lived in St. Louis at the time. So when we were taking this trip, we'd be driving up through the interstate. So you'd be able to stop off at a Walmart, a gas station, pretty much every few miles. Not this trip, and this is why I need to start going back to maps again instead of using my phone. It took me through every single redneck, Hoosier, hillbilly, back road it could find. And finding big towns were far and few in between. So when we had to use the restroom, it was like, okay, 300 more miles. So it was not fantastic taking that route. Then we get there and we check in. And the first thing that I notice is the pool is closed. And my family and I had went there because we really wanted to swim. So they got a little sign on there that says pool closed for maintenance. I'm thinking this event we went to, it's a Native American powwow in Little Shell powwow up in Fort Berthold, North Dakota. Thousands of people are there. And the worst thing about that is I think they chose the busiest time of the year to shut down the pool. I'll let you draw your own conclusions on why. So we go hang out Friday night a little bit and kind of watch some things. They have these things called giveaway where you're basically paying respect to the people who invited you there. If you're an outgoing powwow princess, then you're given away to show appreciation for serving as princess to the organization for the previous year. Families are doing it. It's big ones, many of them. So we go home and, back to the hotel for that evening. The next day, we try to come out at 1 o'clock when grand entry is supposed to be when it takes off, where they dance everybody in. It's raining all day long.
No.
Raining here, raining there, raining everywhere. And so we just go ahead and take off the Lake Sakakawea down, not that far from Bismarck, or at least on that side, the east side of the reservation. And I can't give you specifics because I don't know every highway. But we go down there, we check it out, take some pictures, see this big lake where the Garrison Dam had caused it back when the Army Corps of Engineers forced it, which as a consequence wiped out the Hidatsa Knife River's settlement that was called Like a Fishhook Village in Knife River. So that's underwater. Now it's been there like that ever since they built the dam, flooding them out, trying to force them out of the area. We get back into town. Finally, it stops raining. So we go up there at 7 o'clock. They start to do some dancing, and that was cool. We got to see some junior categories and golden age categories, which is 70 plus people dancing. That was pretty entertaining. It's good stuff. Then it starts to rain again at 9 o'clock, so we have to rush back to the hotel. So basically, on and off, we finally got to see some stuff, but we were fighting the rain mostly the whole entire time. Sunday morning comes around, and we're like, you know what? Time to go home. So we took off. It took about 2 days. And my car, I should have taken pictures to show you. It was just covered, front windshield, front of the car, top of the car, just grasshopper guts and bugs everywhere.
Oh.
And the first thing I did was take it to a car wash, so I got all that off. But that was pretty much the experience, and you know, it was good. I got to take my son home to see his culture and his heritage. That's what I was most concerned about, and so he knows where he's supposed to go if he ever wants to dive deeper and find out more about who he is and understand the ritual, ceremonial, and historical aspects of our culture.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
So that's a really great segue into, you know, like what, maybe like road trip stories. We could probably pass around a road trip story before we shut down shop for the day. But Rick, do you happen to have any, you know, fun road trip stories that come to mind? I mean, since you know, Ed traveled 2,000 miles to get to North Dakota and back. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Not that long. You know, as far as wrestling road trips, I used to go fairly regularly down to San Antonio with some of the guys when they would go down there to wrestle. And I always got rooked into driving.
Oh no.
And there was another guy who and I had a truck that could seat 4 people comfortably, and I had a big back end. And this one guy just would not shut up. And we were headed back from San Antonio, and that's a long drive. And it's nighttime, early morning. Everybody's tired. I'm trying, you know, where everybody's trying to focus. This motherfucker will not shut up.
Just yapping and yap some more.
I told him, if he didn't shut up, I was going to yank him out of the car, and I was going to throw him in the back. And he would ride in the back for the rest of the show in the elements, or for the rest of the trip in the elements.
Oh my god!
There you go.
And he wouldn't shut up.
Oh no!
I pulled the car over, and everybody else in the car was like, "That's on you, dude. You're the one who would shut up." And I pulled the car over. He hopped out of the car and took off because he didn't want me to get a hold of him. So I just got in the car and drove off.
That'll work.
And I left him out there. And we stopped, maybe about half a mile. We stopped, and we parked there and waited. And he eventually showed up. He eventually showed up and tried to get in the car. And one of the other guys had hopped out, went around, grabbed him, and threw him in the back of the truck.
There you go.
And we took off, and he spent the next 3.5 hours riding in the back of the truck, and it was like 40 degrees.
Oh damn. Oh no.
Oh man.
Rick Elsey.
And the whole time he's
destroyer of dreams.
knocking on the back window. Let me in, guys. Let me in. And we were all like, no, because you won't shut the fuck up.
That's what you get for yapping.
Well, maybe it froze his mouth shut.
Oh. That was
He
the
never
hope.
went. He never went on another trip with us.
There you go.
Oh,
He
that's
took care of
good.
that right then and there.
Yeah.
He's not invited for the trips from now on.
The next
Say,
trip was very quiet and peaceful.
That's good.
He'd
That's
say,
good.
by the way, the next time you come with us, you can take an Uber to and from.
Yeah.
King
Yeah.
of pivots. At it again.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right, Tanner, your turn to tell a road trip story.
Yeah, so I'm big into driving. I mean, ever since COVID, working from home, I haven't had to commute to and from the office. And between being from Amarillo to Oklahoma City to being down near my brother in Houston, I've kind of been on the road for a long time. And, just sharing those stories of what happens and what I'm getting into, that really inspired me to, I wanted to do a blog. I wanted to do something with my brother. I could do the Sweeze and Swizzle podcast. So whenever I find the time, I try to plan these trips. I try to go see a comedy show, a wrestling show. I'll just go see whatever is on and popping. So I lost my job in June and I started the comeback story of Sweeze. This was going to be me, my hero's journey. And I was just going to get there through listening to comedy podcasts, seeing all the sites that I wanted to see, and then, along the way, job hunt and stuff like that. So I lived in Oklahoma for a decade. And it was right after, it's probably my worst time of wrestling, 2012 to 2017. But there were a lot of indie shows. So in the time I lived in Oklahoma, I went to Joe Exotic's Tiger King Zoo to see a show with the Viking Raiders, Ivar and Eric, and all these people that were Ring of Honor that eventually went to WWE. So seeing all those shows and the Tishamingos of the world and the Anadarkos and the Watongas and going up to Blackwell, and I saw Ryback versus Jeff Cobb in 2015.
Oh my god!
Just traveling up to Kansas and going to the casino and finding out that the casino had amazing Thai food. Those things you find along the way is just something that I'm like, okay, there is something to see at Kansas at the Kansas Star. Anytime I'm in Kansas, I'm gonna get some Thai food. So my wrestling fan, some would call me addicted to being, seeking out wrestling, but you put a lot of miles on your car. And, thankfully I was working from home. So I had to get a car about 2022. And it was the first year those Bronco Sports came out. And I'd never heard of them, roomy. It was the same price as the car that I had before. So I could get the gas mileage I needed to go see all these sites. Funny story is, don't ever buy a first model year of a car, especially when COVID and all the things, because for the last, 3 years, I've been hearing about how hard these cars and how they just break down and they're lemons and, just whatever. And I'm like, okay, I haven't had any of these issues, but I keep reading the Reddits and the comments because I'm trying to find out where I'm planning trips and planning wrestling shows. So Bronco Reddit came into play and I'm like, okay. So I had to go to the dealership because I started finding these issues about a month ago. So you know how it is when you go to the Ford dealership, you have to get an appointment, COVID protocols for some reason. So everything's all spaced out. So I, got my appointment to get my car fixed and I sit down and, they take you into a room that's like, here, complimentary drinks, here's fridge, here's coffee, here's everything, enjoy your time. So I'm sitting there and an older lady comes in about 15 minutes after me, and the same spill the guy before gave to her. He said, whatever you want, you're entitled to it, just feel free. So I'm just sitting there like, she looks a little confused and I'm just thinking like, okay, how am I going to make this dealership? I've been here for 2 hours. This is really boring. I just need to be out there on the road. And then I'm watching her and she starts to look around and she's like, okay, there's snacks. And I watch her get up and go to a refrigerator and she pulls out a sandwich and I'm just watching her like, okay, what's going on? Turns out she ends up going to the wrong refrigerator, eats an employee's sandwich.
Oh no.
And then I'm sitting here with the struggle of like, okay, do I say something? Do I do anything? And what this summer has taught me and all the road trips and between Oklahoma City and Lubbock and Houston and trying to just doing all this stuff, it's like, I'm just going to let it go and not worry about it. Doesn't involve me. So the big thing about it is the wrap up of the summer of Sweeze and all the road trips and everything that I had planned taught me a valuable lesson of just handle your business and move on.
Yep.
Didn't concern me that, a lady ate an employee sandwich. So that's just a lesson for y'all, have
my
fun,
gosh.
plan your road trips and, appreciate the journey.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man. Okay, I'll end it with mine, and I'll make it as quick because there's multiple layers to the road trip, and it involves the Dragon Gate USA trip over to Philadelphia and back. And we were planning to just do a bus trip. We were just gonna go out of the Greyhound station in Amarillo, which is pretty seedy. It's in the middle of town. And then we're gonna ride it out to Philadelphia, and then Rex gets the bold idea that we should rent out a car, we should get a rental car and just drive all the way out there. And I mean, it was fun. We had some fun stops, but I think I remember like the Gettysburg trip where we were on our way back, and Rex was all about the ghost. He was all about ghost hunting at the time. So it was me, Rex, and V doing the ghost tours. And you can't go into the park at night. Like, if you get caught by the rangers or whatever, you're essentially like paying $75. You're paying a fine.
Oh, shoot on sight is what I was thinking.
yeah, shoot on sight. But no, like, these goofballs, what they do is they take rocks from Devil's Den, which is like the worst place you could take stuff from, on the battlefield. And they get spooked by the tour guide that's given us. She was like, well, I can't take you down to the battlefield, but I can get you close. So we ended up like going down and walking over to this middle school football field. And there's like a patch of brush like between the football field and the battlefield itself. But I just remember, I didn't follow after them. Rex and V were like, man, we need to go back. We need to get some EVPs in typical goofball fashion. And I was like, I'm fine. I'm staying here. And I kind of hang out for a little bit. They come back and they're like, oh man, we were smelling old man perfume. We saw this big spider web that was blocking our way back, so it took us even longer to get back. And by then it's like midnight. It's like midnight, 1 or 2 in the morning, and these guys, well, they got freaked out by the tour guide. So they're like, oh crap, we need to put the rocks back. So we're driving through back to the battlefield, back to Devil's Den. And I mean, it was the spookiest, scariest drive I've ever had. And I've driven in some snowstorms and monsoons, and I remember riding around. My friend Kale Steed was trying to outrun a tornado one time, and I was like, okay, all right, well, I think we're gonna die. But no, I mean, we ended up being okay. So we ended up having to go back through the battlefield, and we hear like musket fire. We start seeing things cross the road. We're freaking out. We smell the musket fire. And then once we get there, and these guys are drinking on their way over. They're like, we picked up like a bottle of, this really special beer I was going to bring back. And they were drinking it, and Rex is like, man, this is the worst beer I've ever tasted. I was like, well, because it was room temperature. Like, it hasn't been chilled yet. And, I mean, we finally get there, and I'm hearing voices in my ear. When they hop out of the car, I'm hearing voices in my ear. And I'm like, dude, shut up. Like, I am freaking out right now. Like, freaking out. And fortunately, they stopped. They respected my wishes. But Rex and V just were like, we're going to go dance out here and to try to track the ghosts. And oh my gosh, these guys.
As you do. Yeah.
As you do. And they're going out there and like they're dancing out there. And I'm like, dude, we got to get back. We got to drop this stuff off, throw it out, jump back in the car so we don't have to pay $75 to the park service. And they finally sauntered their way back in because they're doofuses. And I say that out of love. We finally get back in the car and it's like 2 a.m. and like Rex and V are tired. They're wanting me to start driving all the way back to Amarillo. And I'm like, absolutely freaking not. So I find a hotel room, and it was really interesting for me to stay at the hotel because I was like, man, you know, we just need a room for the night. We just need a place to crash. And it's these really nice Indian folks, and they're like, oh, well, where you're from? And I'm like, I'm from Amarillo. Oh, we got family down there. So we got to talking, and they're like, well, like the room is this, it's X amount of money. And I was like, I only got like $70 on me. And they're like, okay, are you a part of they started really helping me out. And they're like, okay, are you part of the AARP? And I'm like, no. Now you are. Like they were able to get me in. They were able to get us into the room. And I remember all of us ended up crashing, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up first thing in the morning, and they have on Suburban Commando. And that's what I was hearing before I woke up. And yeah, and from there on out, it was not too bad. I mean, we drove until we were exhausted, but I did most of the driving on back, and it was a long trip. I probably, if I ever do that again, I'm flying. But yeah, like that's one of those, you know, those like your path to adulthood trips. And I mean, it was cool. It was cool to see a show at ECW Arena, and it was cool to see, you know, Daniel Bryan go at it with Shingo for 40 minutes. And then to hear the story that Shingo went up to Rex, and you know, and he was like, "You like Pancake Man? You scary? You Pancake Man?" So that's where the Pancake Man thing comes from. But yeah, that was a trip I'll probably never ever forget, for all the right reasons and for all the wrong reasons. So yeah, that's it. There's a few more I can say for another time, but another time it shall be, because we are approaching the 3-hour mark. We've done a really nice job. Rick, thank you so much for having us. Or
yes, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for
joining us.
Getting on. It's awesome. You know, just
for I really appreciate it. I love talking about wrestling. And yeah, I'm available anytime you want to hang out and talk. Yeah, I'm very thankful for it. Once again, I'll just plug Birthiversary, September 20th. Jake's Back Room, Amarillo, Texas. Also live on YouTube. Search Squared Circle Pro or TJ Mundell, and you can watch it there.
Sweet.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
All right. Until next time, it has been the Unfiltered podcast. We'll be back at it next week at 2 p.m. on Sunday Central Time, so 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So Tanner is very quick to remind you of 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 Central Time, and then yeah, and we'll see what brings us, because we'll probably try to we'll see who we got in the coffers and bring them on for next week. And but again, Rick, thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, you know, what is it? Be good, be chill, or is it be cool, be chill?
It started as, I hope you think I'm cool, I hope you think I'm chill, and that was a nervous tick of like doing a podcast of like, please like me. But you know, it evolved into be cool, be chill. That's always just something I remind myself of, as that's how you just got to approach life, one day at a time.
Yep, exactly.
And I hope you guys think I'm cool. I hope you guys think I'm chill.
Yep. And then one last thing is shout out Sumo Dog, shout out Sumo Bear.
Yes. Shout out Sumo Dog.
And then Ed, do you have any parting words?
I'm tired. No,
No, I'm
it's been a really fun conversation.
Absolutely.
Shout out to the juggalos and juggalettes.
Yes.
Before we,
Yeah.
There you go.
Shout out to the juggalos and juggalettes. They're fantastic. And don't forget about the Fago dogs. So
Yeah,
There
yes.
you go.
All right. Well, I think we're out of here. So I'm gonna start playing some music, and then we're out of here. So
should
take
we
care.
go?
Yeah.
Me? Just
Yeah.
me? Thank you. 50% still a success to me.
As soon as you start playing that music, your mic cut out.
Oh, that's okay. All right. Until next time, enjoy your week.
We're clear. Yeah, we're clear.